go ahead and start the agenda for Wednesday, April 2nd, 2014. Joint meeting of the Oceanside City Council, Harbor District, and CDC. Roll call, please.
Mayor Wood?
Here.
Councilmember Kern?
Here.
Councilmember Feline?
Here.
Councilmember Feller?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sanchez is absent.
Thank you, Mayor. With that, could I have the city attorney?
Thank you. Council meeting closed session to discuss item 1, conference with labor negotiator involving the management employees of the City of Oceanside and the Fire Management Association. Item 2, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation in the matter of Anthony Oliver versus Lyons.
Thank you. Closed session. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Our city council meetings are like in two parts. Kind of the consent calendar about 5 o'clock, and then we have presentations, events, and then the rest of the agenda. So there is a break in between those two. For you, if you have any cell phones or any pagers, we would appreciate silence or vibrate. Thank you very much. That's the housekeeping. With that, can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Wood.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sanchez. Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Councilmember Feline.
Here.
Councilmember Feller.
Here.
Thank you very much. With that, can we have the consent calendar, please?
Yes, consent calendar items 3 through 6.
Move approval?
Second.
And thank you. Any public on any of
No
that?
public.
If not, let's vote, please. Thank you.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll go with general items number 7, please.
Item number 7 is the introduction of an ordinance amending Oceanside City Code Section 10A.2 to prohibit the use of electronic cigarettes in areas wherever smoking is prohibited, and amending Chapter 7, Article 11 of the Oceanside City Code to modify the definition of tobacco and drug paraphernalia establishments to prohibit entry by unaccompanied minors, and provide direction to the city attorney to initiate an amendment to the zoning ordinance to treat certain businesses selling electronic cigarettes as a regulated use to a conditional use permit.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been here before, you need to fill out a form if you wish to speak on this item, or if you're going to talk on items not on the agenda, you still need to fill the form out for the clerk. Thank you very much. With that, Mr. City Attorney, will you take that?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. You'll recall that last December you discussed potential methods to regulate the use of electronic cigarettes in the city of Oceanside. As I'm sure you're aware, these electronic smoking devices are battery-operated devices that vaporize a liquid that often contains nicotine or potentially other substances. During that December meeting, there were a lot of issues raised, including the increased use of these devices, especially by youth, the difficulty enforcing the city's smoking ban in portions of the city where the smoking ban applies, as well as the unknown health effects associated with the use of these electronic smoking devices. Council provided direction at that December meeting for myself to return in about 90 days after the County of San Diego had considered a potential countywide ordinance, and to present a framework for the ordinance in Oceanside for you to consider. By the way, the county did take action, I believe, on March 11th, earlier this month, to add several types of electronic smoking devices to its tobacco use prevention and cessation policy that applies to county facilities, and it directed the county staff to begin working on a broader ordinance that would be presented back to the county on May 6th. In the meantime, though, many other cities have taken action to adopt ordinances on the regulation of electronic smoking devices. Vista and Carlsbad last year adopted ordinances. Solana Beach and Poway both adopted ordinances in February. El Cajon and the 22nd Ag District adopted an ordinance in March of this year. And I believe yesterday Encinitas had the second reading of its ordinance. And all these ordinances basically share a common characteristic. They effectively ban the use of electronic smoking devices in areas where traditional smoking is prohibited. And that is one of the features of the draft ordinance that's before you today for introduction. I'll read to you the amendment of the ordinance that, in part, that is before you. It's an amendment to Chapter 10 of the OCC, and its intent is to amend the definition of smoking to include the use of electronic smoking devices. And it provides that the use of an electronic smoking device, which for purposes of this section includes an electronic and or battery-operated device which can be used to deliver an inhaled dose of nicotine or other substances. Electronic smoking devices include any such electronic smoking device, whether manufactured, distributed, marketed, or sold as an electronic cigarette, electronic cigar, electronic cigarillo, electronic pipe, or an electronic hookah, or any other product name or descriptor. Electronic smoking device does not include any product specifically approved by the United States Food and Drug Administration for the use in the mitigation, treatment, or prevention of disease. So that is language that we have developed, which will amend the definition of the term smoking or smoke in Chapter 10. And if this is adopted, smoking will be prohibited in all places in Oceanside where smoking a traditional cigarette is not allowed. That would include beaches, public parks, the pier, the Civic Center Plaza complex, and public places and employment that are identified in Section 10A3, except in designated smoking areas that are elsewhere identified in Section 10A4 of the City Code. I think that is pretty much the same as what many other cities have done. There are a couple other things that I'm asking you to consider. There was some discussion about decreasing the availability of electronic smoking devices to youth at your December meeting. One of the things we have in Oceanside in Chapter 7 of the City Code is a definition of the term tobacco and drug paraphernalia establishment. And basically, if an establishment qualifies or meets that definition, then minors are not allowed to enter without a parent or guardian. And as you probably are aware, under the California state law, it is illegal to sell a minor to sell an electronic smoking device to a minor. So what I am proposing is to amend the definition of tobacco and drug paraphernalia establishment under Chapter 7 of the Code to include businesses selling electronic smoking devices. Now those that sell if they have tobacco and drug paraphernalia in a 4x2 section would not be covered because the current ordinance does not apply to those businesses. But if they do include those products in a 4x2 or greater quantity, then they would meet the definition under this ordinance, and minors would not be allowed to enter. Finally, I'm asking for your consideration about a potential zone amendment. And this is not something you could do tonight, but you could give me direction. Our zoning ordinance identifies tobacco and drug paraphernalia establishments as a regulated use. Regulated uses are required to obtain a conditional use permit and are subject to pretty strict locational criteria and spacing requirements that are set forth in the zoning ordinance. If we amend the definition of tobacco and drug paraphernalia for Chapter 7, it might make sense to do the same in the zoning ordinance so that any future business that sells electronic smoking devices that meets the definition would be required to get a conditional use permit, would be subject to those locational criteria, and ultimately the Planning Commission and potentially the City Council would get to review those applications. So with that, I'm prepared to answer any questions. And the ordinance is available tonight for introduction. If you disagree with portions of it, we could modify it potentially on the dais. Again, happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Attorney, I appreciate it, and you went through a lot of work on that, and I think it's something we've been concerned about. With that, I want to hear from the
Can I just
public.
make one comment?
You may.
Which I forgot to. I did work closely with the North Coast Prevention Coalition. Might have got the name wrong, and the Vista Community Clinic, and I wanted to thank them for providing suggestions to me on language. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to hear from the public if they have any, please.
Yes, we have a number of members of the public wishing to speak on this item. I'll call you two at a time. You will have 3 minutes to address the council. When you arrive to the dais, please state your name for the record. First, we have Debbie Obregard, and second, John Byron.
Good afternoon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. That's for all of you if you get up to speak. A couple of things I'm sure you've been here for. Some of you haven't been here. 2 podiums. You see it empty. Take a spot there when you get called. Also, readjust the gooseneck mic for you. We appreciate that. Thank you. That's how we record it and hear you. Thank you.
That's good. Good afternoon, Mayor Wood, council members.
Adjust the mic. I can't hear you. Here.
Oh, this one. Does that work?
No.
No, just the one up at the top.
This
Now, good to go.
Okay.
The other
Debbie
one.
Obregon. I've been a resident of Oceanside for 41 years, and I've always been concerned with the health and the well-being of my community, especially our youth. On several occasions over the past few months, during visits to my favorite ice cream store on Coast Highway, I have observed children and toddlers inside the adjacent vape lounge. The children were actually inside the lounge, sitting on the couches, walking about, going in and out, and totally exposed to the vaping that was going on by their adult guardians, other customers in the lounge, and even the staff working behind the counter. I also have seen teens in the ice cream store vaping while ordering their ice cream. A little shocked and saddened by this, but most importantly, I am concerned that there are no regulations in place to control this. The City of Oceanside needs to join other cities in the county, protect our young, vulnerable, and most impressionable youth residents for this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor, council members, my name is John Byram and I work for North Coastal Prevention Coalition. We work to reduce problems caused by alcohol and other drugs in the cities of Carlsbad, Oceanside, and Vista. And I am also a new homeowner in the city of Vista after being a long-time renter. The problem of electronic vaporizing devices was brought to my attention by an adolescent substance abuse counselor 2 years ago. He saw students with these devices using new types of concentrated marijuana. To make this concentrated marijuana, they use butane, a very explosive gas. DEA is now called San Diego County the marijuana extraction capital of the United States. We have averaged an explosion a week for since last November. To make a comparison, when we were the meth capital of the U.S., we rarely had explosions. This concentrated marijuana is being made to use in these electronic vaporizing devices. I have seen vape stores opening up everywhere I look. My colleague, a mother in her late 40s in a business suit, had visited some of these stores and asked, "How do I smoke marijuana out of this?" The store clerk was more than happy to tell her which device to buy and how to operate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Joan Brubaker and Fabiola Elias Ramsey.
Joan Brubaker, 1606 Hackamore Road, Oceanside. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am very pleased to see this issue come up, as I recall when the great debate about smoking within certain limits, measurement-wise, it invoked quite a lot of discussion. At the time, I mentioned maybe e-cigarettes should be considered, but because the issue was so contested at the time, I could easily see why it was not approached. This needs very much to be done, because now we're seeing the state signs along the highways where the students from the high schools are trotting, certainly beckoning them in. If there are no regulations, I see no reason why they wouldn't be there if they wish to smoke. I don't care how you care about nicotine, it's going to be habit forming any way you consume it or use it. These conditions with the e-cigarettes early on proved to be a challenge, particularly in office meetings. One lady was speaking to me and says, this person sitting next to me purposely blew the vapor in my direction. I said, I don't really know how to address that without offending her. I thought, I wouldn't mind offending a person that rude. But this is a subject that can be addictive. I was quite amazed to see it at one time for sale in Costco, but it lasted very short time. So fortunately, that practice has been altered. But yes, I'm very much in favor of regulating this, giving it no more leeway than you do cigarettes and other tobacco products. It's high time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for taking the time to allow me to speak today. My name is Fabiola Elias Ramsey, and my husband and I own Feels Good Vapor, which is the largest electronic cigarette shop in Oceanside. It's in South Oceanside on Pacific Coast Highway. I'm not here today to tout the benefits of e-cigarettes. The reality of it is we understand, and we can even appreciate, that people find offense at the appearance of e-cigarette use. It reminds people of smoking, and we all know smoking is bad. And because of that unsavory appearance, many people want to keep it out of view and that of their children. That said, I do take extreme issue with being lumped in with drug shops and paraphernalia shops. The reason you're seeing e-cigarette stores everywhere is because a lot of people don't admit to smoking. They smoke in their homes and they're trying to quit. We've been open 6 months. In the last 3 months, we've had over 2,000 customers, new customers from Oceanside come in. That's an important number because those are people, 2,000 people, that are no longer smoking in Oceanside. They're not people using drugs in Oceanside. They're people that aren't smoking here in your town. The fact is there's no scientific evidence to support any of the claims that electronic cigarettes are harmful first or second hand. The data being disseminated is outdated and inaccurate. I've even brought a recent study here showing that kids don't care about e-cigs. And it's from the Journal of Adolescent Health, that the only children trying e-cigs are already smoking cigarettes. So I'd like to see somebody show me a study that actually shows that kids are being hooked on them. The City of Oceanside's mission statement is to enhance the quality of life through outstanding service to its diverse communities. One of the core values is quality of life, and another innovation. Regardless of anyone's personal feelings about e-cigs, it's hard to argue that they are improving the quality of life of countless thousands. Rather than spend the time and money regulating e-cigs, let's let the state and FDA do the work. The state laws would, of course, supersede any city laws. The Senate Bill 648 is still in committee. What I would like to ask also is that folks who are already in business not be subjected to having to reapply for business licenses and conditional use permits. The reality of it is we're small businesses, we're trying our best. We don't allow children into our shop, with an adult or without. So we can't control people's consideration. We don't think this is for kids. Products have childproof caps. They're not for sale to children. No one's arguing that that's an issue, and we certainly don't think that electronic cigarettes should be in the hands of kids. But we do want to point out all the people using them are people that aren't smoking in your community anymore. They're living better, healthier lives. And I think that's the point we're missing by throwing this in with marijuana and coming up with all these red herrings. Let's look at the positives instead of the negatives, because there really are some. Please, I would invite you all to visit our shop. We're just down the street. Most of our customers are 30 to 60 years old who have been 20 to 30 year smokers. See what we've done.
Thank you. Hold on one second. Mr. Mullen, can you address your comment about relicensing, et cetera, please?
Well, if you were going to give direction to do a zone amendment, the pre-existing businesses would likely meet the definition of a grandfathered use and would not be subject to a CUP. What we're really talking about is getting a handle on future land uses and future businesses. Right now you have, I checked with the business license office today, at least 7 of these shops in town. There are 2 home-based businesses that are selling them, so that's 9 businesses in Oceanside selling them. And if you do nothing, I would suggest that there's going to be more.
Yeah.
So.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
Would anyone like to see? I know we don't get equal time with getting involved in these regulations, but there is a lot being done in terms of keeping these things away from children.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Next 2 speakers we have are Gina Newston and Dana Hosford.
Good evening.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Gina Knudsen, and I'm the Program Manager for the Tobacco Control Program at Vista Community Clinic. I would like to commend the Mayor and Councilmember Kern and all the council members here for bringing this issue forward. For addressing the issue of youth access is what this was first brought up to. Of e-cigarettes, and as the city attorney was talking about, we refer to them as electronic smoking devices because they can be used for other items besides tobacco. Since the last council meeting in December, on the topic of electronic smoking devices, BCC staff went out and assessed all of the 8 vape shops in Oceanside, and 1 more is opening up. They don't always open up as a vape shop. One opened up as a perfume shop, and another one as an art gallery, and then another one as a t-shirt shop. And my colleague here, Dana Hosford, was the one that went out and assessed all of these establishments. Also, there's 124 retail businesses that have a California license to sell tobacco products. Most likely there's a higher number of businesses than this that sell electronic smoking devices in Oceanside. They're sold mostly at gas stations, convenience stores, liquor stores, and even donut shops. We assessed 98 of these retail stores in Oceanside and found that 30% of these stores have outside advertising for electronic smoking devices. Nearly 40% have advertising for these devices inside the store. 53% are sold on the counter, where if there's a kid that comes in and distracts the clerk, he could easily slip it in his pocket. And then there's 13% are sold near candy, gum, ice cream, soda, or slushies. So definitely this is something that is targeting the youth market. And Dana Hosford and John Byron went out and did those assessments of all of the stores. We know that tobacco companies are targeting youth with certain marketing strategies, and we now know that these strategies are working. At the University of California, San Francisco, they did a study that showed that e-cigarettes are a youth gateway drug to regular smoking and nicotine addiction. Electronic cigarettes, which have been touted as a way to help regular smokers quit the habit, may be driving young people toward traditional smoking and nicotine addiction. Researchers Dr. Lauren Dutra and Dr. Stanton Glantz found that adolescents who use e-cigarettes or electronic smoking devices were more likely to smoke cigarettes and less likely to quit smoking. Lastly, I want to address some of the ingredients in the e-juice, which is the juice that's put in these cigarettes. It's propylene glycol and glycerin comprise the main base ingredient of e-liquid or juice and helps generate the aerosol used to deliver nicotine and other compounds to the user. Propylene glycol is an ingredient in antifreeze. These chemicals are approved for ingestion in some food products and some drug preparations by the FDA, but ingestion is different than inhalation. According to the U.S. EPA, when heated and vaporized, propylene glycol can form propylene oxide, which is a class 2B carcinogen, and glycerol forms acrolein, which can cause upper respiratory tract infection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
I apologize. I'm going to keep my sunglasses on. I have a headache and it's really bright in here. I'm not trying to be a diva. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm Deanna Hosford with the Smoke-Free North County Project, and I work with youth from all over Oceanside and North County. And the common thing I hear over and over again from these teens is how they're pairing these vape pens with marijuana oil. When you replace e-liquid with THC oil, the alleged high is 10 times higher than regular marijuana without the skunky smell. With restrictions on where you can vape practically non-existent, I have heard stories of these teens vaping everywhere from class, on the bus, in libraries, and at parks. The state does not outlaw kids' possession of these products. So unlike traditional cigarettes, where a law enforcement officer cannot give a ticket to a teen for having a vaporizer, it's easy to see why e-cigarette use has doubled amongst middle schools and high schoolers. This is according to the CDC. With e-liquids coming in flavors like gummy bear and with the trend of adding hash oil, these devices are youth-friendly drug delivery devices. On top of hash oil, some vaporizers are made so you can put dry herbs right into them, allowing you to smoke regular marijuana. More alarming are the reports of users finding ways to push the limits on what can be vaped with e-cigarettes. Products like K2 liquid and Spice are being sold online, while other users are simply making their own e-juices by vaping codeine syrup or using vegetable glycine by crushing and dissolving Xanax, muscle relaxers, and OxyContin right into their vaporizers. These types of experiments lead to more experimenting, so it's not surprising we are now hearing tales of black tar heroin being vaped. Black tar heroin, when it's vaped, is described as a stronger hit, a faster way to get high than smoking off foil. The benefits are you can carry it around anywhere and it doesn't leave a smell. With the many alternative uses for these devices and the high rate of kids using them, it's time to regulate the use of them. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Our next two speakers are Barbara and Janet Asaro. And Barbara, if you don't mind sharing your last name with us, that'd be great.
Sorry for poor penmanship.
Oh, no.
It's Barbara Gordon.
Gordon.
Okay, thank you. I am here today as the co-chair of the Tobacco Control Coalition of San Diego County. Our mission is to improve and protect the health of all San Diegos by providing tobacco-free lifestyles and environments. The Tobacco Coalition is committed to supporting the establishment of tobacco-free policies. While e-cigarettes may contain less nicotine in the traditional cigarette, the e-vapor still contains carcinogens and other toxic chemicals. The e-liquid or vapor has found to contain at least 10 of the toxic contaminants on the California Prop 69 list of carcinogens and other toxins. The Roswell Park Cancer Institute study, published in their Journal of Nicotine and Tobacco Research, found significant nicotine emitted in the secondhand vapor smoke, which raises a concern of their exposure, especially to a vulnerable population of children, pregnant women, and people with cardiovascular conditions. The commonly reported secondhand vapor health effects were throat irritation, sore throat, mouth irritation, dry cough, dizziness, headache, and being nauseated. Nicotine is one of the components which triggers vascular constriction and reduces the blood flow to the brain, which causes headaches in persons exposed to secondhand smoke, raises blood pressure, heart rate, and glucose level. Nicotine is known to have an adverse effect on the brain and the lung, especially the development of the lung in children. I want to applaud the city for addressing this issue, and it's expressed that Tobacco Coalition is here to provide any support with this tobacco control education program. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Janet Asaro. I also have read and understand many of the more scientific things regarding vaping and these, but I thought I would just talk about what it would be like for me as an experience.
Can I have you move your mic up so we can hear you?
Is that better?
Yeah, a lot better.
One of my favorite restaurants is 333, for instance, and my vision is, for instance, today I had lunch with a girlfriend and her 9-month-old grandson. I cannot imagine sitting in a restaurant now and having 4, 5, 6, 7, or how many people light up a vaporizing device. I know I wouldn't want my 9-month-old friend's grandson breathing in any air that was near that. And when I feel that way, I think, well, why would I want that for myself? Besides the physical, that you still are going to see vapor, smoke, whatever you want to call it, it's still a cloud going up in the air. I just can't imagine that we would go back to that place in our cities. I know, I've lived here 33 years. I know that you've worked very hard to take the city from a military kind of town concept to a family-friendly city. And I just love what you've done, and I'd like to see you continue to go that direction. And I think adding this to the language of the no smoking policies that already exist would be fabulous. So thank you.
Thank you.
Our next two speakers are Aaron Bizak and Deborah Kelly.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. My name is Aaron Bizak. I live in Oceanside. I'm the president of the North Coastal Prevention Coalition. You've heard our mission, reduce the harm of alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and other drugs in these Tri-Cities, Carlsbad, Oceanside, and Vista. And we do that through community action, education, support, and collaboration. According to the World Health Organization's background paper on e-cigarettes, electronic smoking devices are rapidly evolving and being marketed similar to how cigarettes were marketed back in the 1950s and 1960s. Marketing is back on television and radio, and there is an aggressive placement of the product in convenience stores, as you've heard, next to candy, and in other stores next to medications, trying to pretend like they are medications. Youth are rapidly adopting e-cigarettes, which contain traditional tobacco flavors, as well as candy flavors, and fruit flavors such as cherry, peach, chocolate, root beer, and cotton candy. Flavor is an important product characteristic in determining who is attracted to a product and their ability to get started on a product. In 2012, the U.S. Surgeon General's report, Preventing Tobacco Use Among Adolescents and Young Adults, found that flavored tobacco products are disproportionately used by youth and initiators. E-cigarettes have not been proven, I repeat, e-cigarettes have not been proven to help people quit smoking. Longitudinal population studies show that e-cigarettes use is associated with lower odds of quitting. According to the FDA, no brand of e-cigarette has been submitted to the FDA for evaluation of their safety. In the near future, the FDA plans to regulate e-cigarettes as tobacco products. Also, the FDA has not approved e-cigarettes as an effective method to help smokers quit. And why would there be 350 flavors if electronic smoking devices are for smoking cessation? The World Health Organization report has several policy recommendations for e-cigarettes, and one of them is to prohibit the use of e-cigarettes anywhere where the use of conventional cigarettes is prohibited. We applaud the action today of Councilmember Kern and the Mayor and all the council members to ban these devices where traditional cigarettes are banned, restricting minors from entering vape shops unless accompanied by a parent or guardian, and requiring a conditional use permit for any new vape shop opening in Oceanside. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Deborah Kelly. I work with the American Lung Association in California, and last time I think I was on crutches when I was talking to y'all, but I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. First, thank you so much, Mr. Mullen, for really creating an outstanding staff report. It's very understandable, and I think it's kind of cutting edge. I'm not going to repeat what the other speakers have said. I would like to say that right now, no other city in San Diego County is including these products as tobacco and drug paraphernalia. And I remember when I was at a conference and there was a speaker from the Department of Education, and he was talking about e-cigarettes and their use in the schools. And he referred to them as e-joints and e-crack pipes. And I think that's, with some of these products, that's exactly what they are. And it can place kids on a pathway to learning how to use products and putting addictive and dangerous substances into their bodies that they wouldn't ever have learned if e-cigarettes were not around. Also with the conditional use permit, you know, I was talking with actually a very nice vape shop owner who had opened up a shop. He wants to be responsible, but his shop is located next to a dance academy for kids. And, you know, I heard from another city council member in South County who called us because one of her constituents said that, you know, she was getting complaints about a kiosk opening in front of the Disney store in the mall. So I think that having the conditional use permit, I don't know exactly how yours works, but I'm assuming that it will give the city a little bit of leverage on protecting kids and ensuring that these locations don't expose kids to seeing things that they really shouldn't. So I would just like to thank you again for considering this and moving quickly on this and being a leader on this. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Joe Kalugian.
Your Honor, how are you, sir? It's hard for us all to recognize you, Joe. Thank you. I'll get to see you
Did this
again.
on purpose so you wouldn't recognize me. I've been in front of you lately quite a bit. My name is Joe Kalugian. I served for 5 4-year terms on the Solana Beach City Council, and I'm on the leadership board of the American Lung Association. Mayor, may I ask a question and a favor of you? Can you have somebody put this picture on your screen, please?
Yeah, let's see if our clerk can do that. Somebody who's young enough to understand computers and cameras.
Okay.
Could you zoom in on that, please?
Okay. I'd like to thank you very much for
You might have to move it to center
this
there.
item. I'll talk about the picture in a moment. I just thought I'd give them a little bit of a chance to get going. This item is a very important issue. Thank you for staff really putting out an excellent report, and thank you in advance for the City Council to hear this issue. You know, I wasn't going to say too much, but I did want to. There was somebody from the industry who had mentioned a couple issues about kids, and then the second issue is that there's no study that there is a problem. First of all, the World Health Organization, which you've heard, has identified several carcinogens. 2 of them are nickel, and the other one is nickel and chromium. The nickel, by the way, in the vapor of e-cigarettes is worse than in regular cigarettes. I just want to point that out. And it's a carcinogen. So this is a very important issue. I was in Maui recently, 2 weeks ago, as a matter of fact, and at a shopping mall, and I saw this e-cigarette stand there, and happened to be around the stand for a period of time, probably 30 minutes, while my wife and my sister-in-law were out shopping, and I just wanted to see who was going to come to that stand, or who was this fellow going to invite to the stand. Not one adult either came up to the stand, nor did he invite one adult to come to it. But as soon as these kids came by, I want to let you know that he encouraged them to come and watch a video that they had made of that appealed to children. And these are children. These are very young kids. So it's a bunch of bunk, to tell you the truth, that they're not appealing to the young people of today. Please join the North County cities or North Coastal cities of Del Mar, Solana Beach, Encinitas, Carlsbad and make it possible to have a cohesive effort on this particular issue. I know it looks, is my time up? I'm not sure, but thank you.
Time to wind down there. Thank you, sir.
No further public on this item.
Thank you. And don't forget your phone. With that, we're coming back to the council. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, this is actually the 50th anniversary of the Surgeon General's report on smoking and health. 50 years ago, 1964, you remember this warning, Surgeon General has determined that cigarette smoking is dangerous to your health. And it is actually pretty significant that we're now on another form of the same kind of thing. And that is this e-cigarette. I didn't think I'd want to learn a new word today, vaping. I don't think I'd heard that word before, and it's, you know, it certainly does sound like something that kids would use. And in the last meeting, hearing that we had on this, we did hear from Eric O'Leary as well, and thank you very much for the reports and for bringing, you know, making sure that there is data and evidence to be able to base our decision on. And yes, kids, the kids' flavors, the bubble gum and cotton candy and all of those, that picture especially, you know, hits it home and should hit it home for all of us, that this is a use that should be regulated and should be treated exactly like tobacco. So I want to thank Mr. Mullen for putting together an ordinance based on our comments at the last hearing. And I, for one, do want to move it forward as to his recommendation that we do a zone amendment or direct him to prepare a zone amendment regarding tobacco, regarding the regulated use of e-cigarettes, that it be included as tobacco and drug, you know, paraphernalia. I agree with that, and I would want us to go forward with that. I am very concerned about the number of establishments as was presented to us today. 98 establishments were studied, and like 50%. And this is outside of the, you know, these 9 stores that are, you know, throughout our city. We're talking about, I don't know if it's, I'm just going to say AM, PMs, things like that. And that is just unacceptable because kids go in there, and I am really, really concerned about having, you know, these many establishments, the proliferation of these, of these paraphernalia, really, drug paraphernalia type uses. So I, first of all, want to move, is it introduction of the ordinance, hoping that we can save kids from smoking. I don't know how many of us started smoking, but I think all of us don't smoke anymore. I don't know, Mayor, did you ever smoke? No. See, it's probably the only one that didn't do it. I did, and I stopped when I realized what I was doing. My dad stopped, said he would never stop, and he did because of his health, because his doctor said, if you don't, you're going to die. And he decided that he didn't want to do that to us, to himself. And so I'm very, very proud of my dad for having done that. And I would like to help ensure the health and safety of our children and our citizens by ensuring that this is not around as you know, something to be tempted by, and that it is exactly treated like tobacco. So I move introduction, and I also would direct the city manager to come up with wording regarding a zone amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Second. Thank you, Councilmember Feller. I'm sorry, you were up next.
Thank you. I tried smoking. That's not something I can really tolerate. So I understand what it means to not have something healthy. within you, including most of the food I eat. So we have a couple questions. Can we limit the number of these businesses such as vapor shops?
I think so. But what I was anticipating coming back with is a conditional use permit ordinance, if that's what you direct, and that would include all of the locational restrictions that would apply to any other regulated use. So I think by default there would be very few new ones. But yes, I think we could look at that.
I think that's what I would aim at. I too think that we need the zoning. So, there is no scientific evidence that this is good for us either. The one lady said, the shop owner said that it would be, there's no scientific evidence that it's harmful. Well, I don't think it's been proven yet that this is a really good thing for us. And you know, if I just can't imagine that they have that many flavors of anything that are useful. The perception that I see is that it, for God's sakes, it does not look good when it looks like a bull in the middle of the ring aiming for the red cape when they blow smoke out of their nose, and looks like it's coming out of their ears and everything when they blow that vapor out. And it's not, I don't know what the appeal is, except that if it does come in flavors, it's really not going to be good for what children see. I think the children are really what matters here. The adults can certainly figure out a way to stop smoking other than these shops. Making it harder to get would be better as far as I'm concerned. So, and they are in every AM, PM, all of the stores. So I think some regulation has to happen, and I'm not a big regulation guy, but this is just as serious as smoking in our parks. I've seen them smoking at football games, these vapor pipes. Well, it just doesn't make sense that that's okay and regular smoking isn't. So happy to support this.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Kern, please.
Thank you. I brought this up originally back in, I think, December, not because other cities were doing it, but I was personally bothered by it because I was walking down to a restaurant here downtown and I see these kids, probably 14, 15 years old, doing this. And I thought, this is not a good thing for them to go down this path. Now, I hope I hope your shop's successful, and I hope you sell to adults, and I hope that stays in. I hope you're grandfathered in. But I also hope that you talk to your other people in your industry that you need to get a handle on this so it doesn't go down to the kids. I encourage every adult that smokes to switch over to this. But the idea, what we're here today is to keep kids from going down that path. And that is our big concern here as a city, as the council, is to keep it out of the hands of youth, because right now we don't know. I'm sure there's conflicting reports, both sides. It's good for you, it's not good for you. Somehow I can't see inhaling it, anything's good for you. And I'm a cigar smoker. I freely admit that. And so I was a little taken aback about electronic cigars, but I'm going to bite the bullet on that one and go for the same thing. But the idea is that and I think Councilmember Fella kind of said it, that the idea we need to get some regulation on this, put it in place. The idea is to keep it out of the youth and discourage it as much as possible. So again, I'm thankful for the council's support. I think the community supports this, and not just the city of Oceanside community, but also the community of North County. So with that, I don't think there's much more to say. Thank you.
Councilmember Feline.
Thank you, Mayor. I just think for smoking confessions, we ought to distinguish whether we're talking about tobacco, marijuana, or crack cocaine. But I will say for myself, no, it's not what I said. I'm confessing to nothing. I led a pure life and never got addicted, though I will say at an early age, like a lot of people, I did smoke a couple cigarettes, but when I was in school, they had a little demonstration. I don't know if they still use it, but they had the white cotton and said, "This is your lungs," and they put it in a jar and attached a cigarette to it and pumped the pump, and the cotton came out black, and I said, "That works for me," and after that, I never touched another cigarette or anything that basically put any kind of smoke in my lungs until I should say, weakened and smoked an occasional cigar, though I shouldn't confess now that my wife's going to hear about it. So, but on this, I have to say, I don't know if I'm alone on this or not, but when I first heard about e-cigarettes, I thought, wow, this could be a good thing, that people would have something that they would be able to handle the nicotine addiction, which is the curse of cigarettes, without getting all the tar and smoke in their lungs, and it would be a transition product that would help a lot of people. And in one sense, I hope that will still be the case. It seems with the evidence that's out there, you're still better off with an e-cigarette than a regular cigarette. But at the same time, with nicotine being very addictive in its own right, I also see, as Councilman Kern mentioned, people who I don't think are heavy smokers are suddenly using e-cigarettes and getting that huge nicotine dose that's going to hook them on nicotine. However they're going to deliver that in the future, whether that's through e-cigarettes or regular cigarettes, that's still a bad road to go down, and I think there's too much of an attitude amongst the younger population that e-cigarettes are a harmless product, and I think we need to stamp out that idea where we can. It's not harmless, it's just a simple of, I think it's an issue of what is the worst product, and I think certainly cigarettes are the worst, but that certainly doesn't make e-cigarettes good. It's just the better of a bad alternative. And so I guess I have a question for our police chief, because a comment was made, and I was asked about hearing hash oil and TCH oil is being inserted in the e-cigarettes, and I guess the first thing is, I thought the oil in there, the flavor in the cigarette was directly connected to the device. So is the oil separate, and you basically buy a flavor, insert it in the device, and the items are separate when you buy them?
Honorable Mayor, council members, Councilmember Feline, this is a new item. I've never used this item. However, from what I understand, you do purchase oils to put inside the device and smoke it or bake
Okay,
it.
so they are separate purchase products, like you basically put batteries in a flashlight, you're putting oil in the e-cigarette. Now, hash oil and TCH oil, I mean, how is that made? Who creates that?
Those are illegal substances.
And so someone's having some lab where you're making oil instead of making cigarettes, or however that's working?
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, so I think when you weigh the balance, and thank you very much, that's all I needed to know. That so I think when we weigh all the evidence, I certainly think the city's better off going down the path of treating these like cigarettes, and the people who need them as truly need them as a transition product, and and they find it helpful, they need to do that in non-public places. And I think even if the vapors were harmless, I think most members of the public, as was mentioned by someone else, would be upset, and I think it would be considered rude in today's environment that you're having a bunch of vapors blown in your face, whether they're medically harmful or not. And so I think for our community and the image we want to create, I think this ordinance is a good idea. Thank you.
All the comments I have on this particular issue, I'm going to ask the city attorney or anybody else on this, is the young lady that was here earlier and has a shop doing this. I thought this was going to be, unlike you, Mr. Feline, I thought this was going to be a new modern item that will help smokers. And we've got a lot of different changes since then. The feedback mine is she has a business that strictly handles this. We're going to enforce that and cause more regulations for her and everybody else. What I'm concerned about is the other 90-something or 100 stores that sell clothing or whatever that has a shelf, a 2x4 or whatever it is. How do we, can we regulate those out of this issue? That concerns me is clothing stores, whatever it might be, are going to have a shelf that's in there, and we regulate her, but how about the rest?
Well, the ordinance in front of you tonight does two things. It treats smoking, an e-cigarette or an electronic smoking device, as a regular smoking, as if it were a regular cigarette. So that portion really has nothing to do with that, those shops. The shops can continue to sell. We're not stopping them from selling to adults. The second part of the ordinance that modifies the definition of tobacco and drug paraphernalia establishment, if they meet the definition, they are not allowed to have minors enter without a parent or guardian. And so that's really places that are selling them in larger mass quantities. A display section, I think the ordinance says 4 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet deep. So I would think that a vape shop is going to meet that definition, and minors can't go in there. And the lady who operates the vape shop said she doesn't allow minors in there to begin with, so it wouldn't adversely affect her. If it's a store like AM/PM is selling a small section, that would not appear to impact them.
Well, I think this maybe needs to come back to us later and address those stores, and I don't know if we can, but I'm concerned about, I don't want these illegal items being used for anything other than they're designed for. But I also don't like the fact to say, okay, we'll regulate 9 of these in town, but there's another 150 that sell them, and different shops like AM/PMs, kids come in there, whatever, parents come in. So I'm going to support this, but I also want to make sure down the road that they don't have a way to circumvent this way by having a 2 by 2 by 2 or 4 foot section in their store to sell these items. Hopefully somebody out there or another city has a regulation trying to address these. I see head nodding yes, so we'll probably have to look at that for you too. I think it'd only be fair. It's only be fair because you know what? The other thing is she has 7 or 8 stores in here for competition. She's going to probably be grandfathered into our city, and that'll hold back a little bit of aspect, I'm assuming. So adding to that, why should another little store across the street or around her be able to do it if they keep it in a small shelf? That concerns me. That's not fair. So I think we need to address that later down the road. With that, let's please vote on this.
I need to title the ordinance.
I have to title it. I don't know. He wants to title it. I always forget. Here you go.
Thank you. And before I title it, my sense is from all of your discussion that you're in favor of providing the direction for the zone amendment. So
yes.
That's not part of the ordinance, but we'll begin that preparation and bring that back to you at a future date. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Oceanside amending Section 10A.2, Subdivision A of Chapter 10A of the Oceanside City Code to prohibit the use of electronic smoking devices wherever smoking is prohibited, and amending Chapter 7, Article 11 of the Oceanside City Code to modify the definition of tobacco and drug paraphernalia establishments to prohibit unaccompanied minors from entering said establishments.
Thank you very much, and with that, will you please vote?
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 5 o'clock. We have to take a break so our staff can set up some of the presentations and the awards that are coming up. With that, if you haven't been here before, out the doors, up the stairs, restrooms, water. If you have students here from a class that have to get something signed, come on up and we'll sign them for you, okay? Thank you very much. Rancho?
What they, yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second part of the City Council meeting. Welcome. We're going to have some, I'll have my aide explain it, but we're going to have some items that we can discuss before we get into the real business of the city. And we'll start off by saying if you have a phone or a pager that you can put on silent or vibrate, we'd appreciate that, number one. And with that, I'll let my aide explain what we're going to do next.
If you would please stand at this time for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Leading us in the invocation tonight is our City Clerk, Zach Beck, who is also the youth pastor for Gateway Community Church.
Please bow your heads. Father, come before you today just to simply say thank you. Thank you for the blessing, the privilege, and the honor it is to live in this incredible city. A city made up of diverse individuals with different beliefs, different backgrounds, different presence, and different futures. As we come to you today to seek your guidance and wisdom and discernment for the policies that are being crafted here at this council, we take this time to lift up our council members. We lift up Councilmember Feller, Councilmember Kern, Councilmember Feline, Deputy Mayor Sanchez, and Mayor Wood to you, that they would just have peace of heart and mind as they deliberate over items that impact this great city. And on this being National Autism Awareness Day, we ask for peace and hope in the lives of those who battle with autism right now, as well as the family members and friends who are associated with them. Would you just continue to be a present force of peace in their lives during this present time? And we say all these things in your precious name. Amen.
Leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening is from the city's own Green Team, and we'd like to call forward the following individuals: Colleen Foster, Cynthia Mallett, Teresa Gomez, Kathleen Coogan, Jenna Roripaw, and Sarah Davis.
Where's the security when I need it?
All right, I will be leading the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may all be seated at this time, and we're going to go directly into a proclamation that these ladies are working on. It's a proclamation in honor of North County Earth Month. Whereas the mission of the Green Oceanside campaign of the City of Oceanside is to bring environmental awareness and stewardship to the citizens of our community. And whereas each year Green Oceanside employees from various city departments collaborate to present environmental education programs and public participation opportunities that teach our community how to be better stewards of the planet by recycling, reducing waste, composting, conserving water and energy, and preventing water pollution. And whereas during the month of April 2014, Green Oceanside presents Earth Month 2014, offering various environmental events and activities such as Donate First Day, Create to Educate Contest and Performance Showcase, the Loma Alta Creek and Beach Cleanup Event, a compost bin design workshop, a master composter series, a used oil filter exchange event, zero waste farmers and sunset markets, and an Earth Festival event in downtown Oceanside. And whereas the Earth Festival, North County's largest Earth Day event, will be held on Saturday, April 27th, and will feature environmental booths, a children's eco zone, water conservation, and green home improvement areas, water-friendly landscaping ideas, good food, and live entertainment. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jim Wood, Mayor of the City of Oceanside, do hereby encourage all of our residents to participate in Oceanside's annual Earth Month event to make our community and the world a better place to live.
Well, first of all, I'm really excited 5 years ago, a group of 4 individual staff members here at City Hall got together, and when we get together, we kind of come up with too many ideas at times. So I'd like to recognize those individuals in the beginning, Nancy Romero and Nancy Cardison, they used to be with the city, as well as Cynthia Mallett. And what's really exciting is that our first event went from one small festival to a Green Week, and now 5 years later to Earth Month 2014. So that's very exciting, and really it's made possible by the partners, the staff from all the different departments, as well as the sponsors in our community. So in that, before I give this mic over to Cynthia, I'd like to recognize our major sponsors and partners that are really making Earth Month 2014 possible this year. I'd like to recognize Waste Management of North County. They are a major partner with a $5,000 sponsorship of Earth Month 2014. I'd also like to recognize our friend partners. Each of these organizations donated anywhere from $100 to $500 to the Earth Month program. Agri-Service, Assistance League of North Coast, Camp Stevens, Chevrolet All-Terrain, Coastal Music Studios, Eco-Rooted, Hydronautics, Main Street Oceanside, Preserve Calavera, San Diego Hydroponics and Organics, SoCal Solar, and Upcycled Home and Garden. So again, thank you to these organizations to make this a great event.
And as the proclamation states, there are a lot of events that people can participate in. The first event is Donate First Day is this weekend, April 5th, where you can bring gently used items where they'll actually get reused instead of throwing them in the landfill. We have a lot of other events that can be found at www.greenoceanside.org, and you can participate in events that include opportunities for children, adults, as well as participating in cleanup events. So we hope that all of you can look at one of those events and hopefully participate and make our Earth Month 2014 a great success. Thank you.
Yes, we're going to take a picture together, but I want you to pass the mic down and identify yourself and what you do for the city.
Teresa Gomez, I'm with Water Utilities as a Senior Management Analyst.
Kathy Coogan, I'm with Water Utilities as Water Conservation.
Jenna Rorapa, also Water Utilities, but Solid Waste and Recycling, Environmental Specialist.
Sarah Davis, also with Water Utilities and also with Solid Waste and Recycling.
Picture, girl, slide on over a little bit.
Next, we have a proclamation for Fair Housing Month. And at this time, we'd like to call forward Robert Nicolay, who is our Housing Commission Chair, and with him, Kelly Matthews of North County Lifeline. Proclamation in honor of Fair Housing Month. Whereas the Fair Housing Act was signed on April 11, 1968, just 1 week after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. And whereas this landmark bill, Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, resulted from the hard work and leadership of Dr. King and others in the civil rights movement. And whereas this act was an important step toward confronting discrimination against minorities in housing throughout the United States. And whereas this act has helped open doors of opportunity for countless families since its passage, making significant progress in achieving equal housing access for all individuals. And whereas all Americans should know their housing rights, which protect citizens of the United States from discrimination. And whereas Fair Housing Month provides an opportunity to place special emphasis on the goal of increasing home ownership throughout our community, achieving the American dream. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jim Wood, Mayor of the City of Oceanside, do hereby proclaim April 2014 as Fair Housing Month and encourage citizens of Oceanside to become more aware of their rights and responsibilities within our community.
Hold that one. I'll come around the other side for a minute.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. On behalf of the Oceanside Housing Commission and the people of Oceanside who we serve, I'm very pleased to accept this proclamation. And I'm very, very proud to be able to serve some of the more unfortunate people who are not able to access fair housing. Some of the what you might call the silent minority, some of our seniors, our veterans, and our poor working families. And I just wanted to say also that a great leader once said that however you treat the least of my people, so you treat me. And I think when we think about fair housing that we should keep those words in mind.
Thank you. It's an honor to receive this proclamation. April is a month dedicated to fair housing, and if you've ever been on the internet, about 400,000 other things. This year is the 46th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act, and it cannot be just contained in a single month of the year. It's an ongoing process all through the year. For several years now, the motto from HUD has been fair housing. It's not an option, it's the law. And that was directed towards people who provided housing and housing services. This year, now on the side of the little guy, it's fair housing is your right. Use it. And it's a very good reminder that, you know, if we don't use the rights and the protections that we have, they may just someday go away. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you.
I want the camera to pan out there in the audience and see some of these hard workers that make it possible every day. Housing, Recreation, Neighborhood Services, Marjorie Pierce, David Manley, David, wave, and the young lady in front of her, I know. Anyhow, I appreciate it. You do a lot of the good for people out there on the... Hey, this town has seniors and veterans, and that's very important, and I'm happy that we're doing something with them. However, what we do is just a drop in the bucket. I wish we had a lot more time, money, and people involved to make it better for these people. Thank you very much, and this award goes out to two wonderful people here today, and thank you. How about a photograph? Thank you.
Our final presentation this evening happens to be honoring the Oceanside men's tennis team. They are the 2014 North County BB Division League Tennis Champions. And we would like to call the following people forward. First, Captain Blaine Wilson, and with him, member Victor Roy. Ladies and gentlemen, as you see, every council meeting we have a team of the week up here. Usually youth sports, usually youth, and they out representing the city of Oceanside, locally, county, state, and sometimes nationally, and their kids are here with their parents. This time it's a little different. A little older. This is junior high level.
This is my turn.
Yeah. Anyhow, I was so thrilled when I found out from Victor, that they won, representing Oceanside. There was a team. We'll pass the mic to let them talk a little bit, but they represented Oceanside and did a great job. And I'm so happy about this because they're not necessarily young lads in the area, but, you know, they did a job for Oceanside. So let's hear from... Well, you're going to make the speech? Okay. Say hi to everybody and why.
Hi, my name is Blaine Wilson. I've played for the Oceanside Men's League for 10 years, and I've been the captain the last 3. And in sports, they always say, you know, if you have a group of guys that play hard for the name in front of the jersey instead of the name in the back of the jersey, they'll do some pretty great things. And we've always been fortunate to have a team of men that have always represented not only the courts of John Landis Park, but also the city of Oceanside very well. Very conscious of how we interact with others. we do quite a bit of traveling. We go to a lot of country clubs in South County, someplace in Rancho Bernardo, Rancho Penasquitos, and a lot of their monthly dues, they can be $300 to $400 just to be a member to play at their club. And we were fortunate this year that we went head to head. We were undefeated this year, and so that we were pretty excited about that. Thank you. So one of the best things and what I really love about this team is that we're widely considered the most hospitable team around. I only ask $25 from each of the members here. We have an easy up tent that we consider our clubhouse, but it houses the most important part, which is our barbecue. And every home game that we have, we always grill up hot dogs and burgers. Our last home game, we go all out. We get a little special. We do some carne asada tacos and carnitas tacos. The other members, including Roy, they'll bring chips and salsa. There's always pastries. We have a ton of drinks. So even though we're just a really small community park, we're the only community park in the league. All the other teams enjoy coming down to us because they know they'll be taken taken care of pretty well. So we really enjoy that, and that's one of the things that I enjoy with the other members of the team. And then on the same side of that, we're very well taken care of. The City of Oceanside, the Parks and Recs Department, they do a very good job. They resurface our courts every couple of years. We actually just had them resurfaced 2 weeks before our season started. So we were able to have a brand new start to our season. We got brand new benches and whatnot. So although we are just a community park, as far as our court condition, you would never know between us and some of the more expensive members there. So on behalf of myself, Roy, or Victor, and some of the members that couldn't make it, we do appreciate all the work that the City of Oceanside does for our courts, and then also the recognition here from the City Council in our achievement. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
There's a big team. They didn't show up tonight, so we asked that they send the best good-looking guys to represent the team, and here they are. Roy, thank you.
Roy's model. This is our spring uniform.
Thank you, Mayor Wood, for the recognition award. We appreciate it. It's encouraging. We have a lot of players that come out and play. The team has 12 members. We also have a reserve bench, which we had to call on and bring in 5 members during the flu season for injuries. But between the 17 players, we did go undefeated against every single team in North County. So that was quite an achievement. Standing before you is the youngest player on the team, and Blaine is one of the top players in San Diego County. So we're very fortunate that he's leading us as the captain, and I think I'm the oldest on the team. I would like to acknowledge and thank each of the players. They're strong and competitive on the court. I don't know why they're so shy. They were all invited to come here tonight and be part of this presentation. So acknowledging and thanking Blaine Wilson, our captain, Woody Bohart, Matt Bowie, Howard Campbell, Edgar Doaldo Hondo, Jeremy Horton, Dave Jones, Carlos Light, Tony Navarro, Bob Paris, myself, Victor Roy, Burton Slack, Doug Takeda, Jake Tran, Ed Wilson, Kyle York, and Jan Zamoysic.
There you go.
I'd like to thank Eileen Turk for heading Parks and Rec and giving us the additional support, bringing updated signage, and being on call if there are problems with neighborhood kids skateboarding on the court. It doesn't happen often, but it happens a couple of times. So it usually doesn't interfere with the tournament, but when we have team practices, we have had a couple of incidents in this last year. I'd like to thank the mayor and all of the city council members for continuing support for Parks and Rec activities, and to spread out the funding so that we have diversified sports in Oceanside, including tennis. We also have women's teams that are very competitive. So John Landis Park, which is dedicated for the Oceanside men's and women's teams, is a very important asset for us. So we want to thank everybody, and thank you all for being here.
Can they come up? This is Miss Turk in Parks and Recreation. I always tell her she never stops smiling. Congratulations. Let's hear from our winners. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's always nice to recognize people within the city itself. Next item I'm going to go to here is closed session report from my city attorney, please.
Thank you. Council met to discuss item 2A on the agenda, conference of legal counsel on existing litigation in the matter of Anthony Oliver versus Lyons, Los Angeles Superior Court case number BC 517652. The council voted 5-0 to authorize the city attorney to provide a legal defense to Cynthia Lyons. Item 1 on the agenda was labor negotiations involving the Oceanside Fire Management Association and the management employees of the city of Oceanside, and there is no reportable action on that item at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. And Mr. Clerk, item 14, please.
Yes, we have two members of the public wishing to speak on items not on the agenda. First, we have Kristen Brown, then Cameron Brown.
Good evening. I see you have a following.
Yes.
He can stand in front of the podium if he wants.
He's being shy. But he's awfully cute. I wish you could see him. Mayor Wood, Deputy Mayor Sanchez.
Pull the mic over for we can hear you. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Brown. I live at 2267 Ocean View Road here in Oceanside. I was born and raised in Oceanside, and I love this city. First, I want to thank you for making Oceanside a great place to live and raise children. I'm here tonight as a board member with Oceanside National Little League, and I'd like to tell you about our situation. About 3 years ago, when the economy was not in a good place, as I understand it, the city started to require ONLL to pay for the field lights. At that time, we had a surplus in our budget, but that light bill has depleted our funds, and we are now in a dire situation. It costs about $65,000 to operate ONLL, and our registration fees bring in about $43,000. Those fees are used to cover insurance, permits, equipment, uniforms, to name a few. Most of these things are required to run any Little League based on the bylaws. Our board is made up of volunteers, most of whom work full-time jobs. We have all been working hard to find ways to get donations and raise funds. We currently have $6,750 in sponsorships. Some of that comes from the generosity of members on this city council. Thank you, Mr. Feller, for your generosity and continued support. If others of you have donated, we thank you too. We currently have a shoe fundraiser going on that hopes to bring in $1,000 to $2,000. If you have any old shoes, please bring them to the Little League Park at King any Saturday. I have asked several Walmarts and grocery stores for donations so that we might be able to sell items at the snack bar for 100% profit. We have a Padre Day fundraiser. We've had hit-a-thons to try to raise monies, but these ideas haven't proven to raise the $22,000 needed to make up the difference in our expense and income. Please forgive me, but I haven't had time to do the research needed to make a solid case. But as I look around Oceanside and see improvements on parks, like a new skate park down in the valley by the old drive-in, and improvements on our skate park at MLK Park, apparently tennis courts as well, not to mention the upswing in our economy, I'm hopeful that the city's financial status is better than it was several years ago. We're asking for your help. As it stands now, I'm deeply concerned about our ability to pay for all our bills this season and don't know how we can continue with Little League next year. The thought of 100 kids missing out on this wonderful American tradition is heart-wrenching. Growing up in Oceanside, I saw my older brothers play Little League 40 years ago. My nephew played at the American Fields, and all 5 of my boys have played Little League. The simple fact is we cannot continue without help. Financial support from the city would be wonderful. I think we also need to open our minds to ideas to improve the situation. The city of Vista charges their league $17 an hour for the lights. We are charged $27 an hour. I'm not sure if the difference is because Vista Sports Park is newer and maybe they run a more efficient system, Maybe we should consider looking into solar to run the lights at the parks. ONLL is happy to look at options. We're open for ideas to help solve our problems. We don't want to let Little League go away, and we know that you won't let that happen either. Thank you for your consideration.
I spoke with Eileen Turk earlier, and she would be happy to. So this is going to be direction to staff. And in the past, Mayor Wood has also been one of those sponsors.
Thank you very much.
So I thought that it's important that that's pointed out as well.
Thank you.
Eileen will be your contact, and hopefully just so that you can, I don't want to cut your son off from speaking, but
we have a second speaker.
We will follow up on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll let you speak in a second. Two things, if you may, when you finish. All the other sports are having issues too, I understand. The economy's changing somewhat, we hope. What we're going to talk about later in this council meeting is how the money can be spent. There are a lot of issues. But Eileen Turk, you've seen out there, but also in the back there, Marjorie Pierce, who's the director of that section. Talk to both of them as you walk out of here and get more information. Okay. And they'll probably end up talking to the city manager. I'll certainly think that you might, because talking tonight here, you might get some sponsors who are watching on TV or here in the audience, but they'll want a contact point or number. Do you have that? So you can tell us on the air?
Yes, they can go, I mean, and as you said, the other sports are having the same issues, and all three Oceanside Little Leagues I know are in the same situation. We are Oceanside National Little League, and you can find that, just oceansidenationallittleLeague.com will get you to our website, and there's a direct sponsor us right here in the middle of the webpage.
So if there's people out there watching on TV or here in the audience that would like to sponsor or help, this is your time, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
We always want youth sports because they represent Oceanside. And with that, I know there's a second speaker, this gentleman over here, I understand.
Yes.
We'll let him go first, and if you wander off, don't forget to meet with these two ladies back here.
Thank you.
Go right ahead, sir.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Cameron Brown, and I live at 2267 Ocean View Road in Oceanside. I have been playing Little League since I was 5 years old. Before I played, I watched my cousin play, and that's what got me interested in playing. I've played fall ball at Oceanside American Fields at Brook Street and spring ball at Oceanside National Fields at Martin Luther King Park every year for the past 8 years. Little League has given me the opportunity to grow stronger, improve my skills as a player, and learn to be a good sport and a team player. Growing up playing baseball not only taught me to be good at baseball, but it has taught me discipline and how to manage my time. My coaches and parents have stressed the importance of good grades and doing well in school. I have achieved that by earning straight A's. My goal is to go on and play high school baseball and hopefully get an athletic scholarship to college. And who knows how far I could go. Without Little League, none of this would be possible for me. I have seen two of my younger brothers play Little League baseball, and now my youngest brother, Logan, is playing t-ball this year. It is fun to watch him play, and he loves it just as much as I do. It would be so sad if the opportunity that I had would be taken from him. Please consider helping out our league so that hundreds of kids will get the same great experience I had. Thank you very much for your time.
No further public on this item.
Mallory?
If everyone will indulge us, we do have one more presentation. We didn't know if they were going to be able to make it tonight or not. But for Pet of the Month, we have from the San Diego Humane Society's North Campus, Lisa Bolkes, and she's here with Norma Jean.
Norma Jean. Oh, Norma Jean is looking like Marilyn Monroe. Yes, she is.
Good afternoon. This is Norma Jean.
She's been with us for a little while. She's a love bug. Can you see that? She is best to be the only dog. Or no, I'm sorry, no cats. Best to be in a home with no children. And she does great in play groups with other dogs at the Humane Society. And then I also would like to let me let you know where she's available. She's available at our Oceanside location at 2905 San Luis Rey Road. And I'd also like to let you know about our $5 feline promotion for Saturday. Yes, this is kind of in honor of Jackson Galaxy being in San Diego. So all adult cats are going to be $5 at the San Diego location. That's 5500 Gaines Street in San Diego, and also at our Oceanside location at 572 Airport Road.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a lovely, pleasant dog. I understand they're always looked at as mean, attack dogs. They're not. It depends on who raised them and who the owners are. This one's very gentle. I see her down there all the time. I go by and check the dogs. The other thing, cats and bunny rabbits are in the other one by the airport. I've been down at least 3 times in the last 2 months looking for a cat for my wife. Mine of 16 years didn't make it. But like I say, $5 is a steal to get a loving animal down there. If you don't get one, just the fact that you go down there and see the animals, you'll enjoy it. And they got all the needs you have for animals down there, dogs and cats. He was going to bite the attorney, that's why he left. Anyhow, for some of you people, this would be a good sponsored dog or a dog for your particular group. If anybody's a graduate from college that's still in the audience that might want a dog, nobody in particular, that group right there. It's a loving dog, and I thank you. The other thing I always bring up, at the Oceanside Humane Society down in the valley where the dogs, there's 2 areas, the dogs and the other separate area, and the cats, the dogs. They have a 2.6 acre off-leash park, divided for big dogs and divided for little dogs. They get to run free without leashes, and it's like a gathering of people to talk about, let the dogs have a good time. And if you haven't been there, it's all AstroTurf that cleans itself at night. Plenty of chairs, tables to sit down and have a good time. I go down with my dogs. This dog could swallow one of my dogs. Anyhow, it's always fun to go down and have a good time. Don't forget about that, number one. And your deeds in taking care of good dogs. Everybody I've seen that gone down and taken home one of the pit bull types like this with all the muscles, they've always been satisfied, and they're very loving dogs when you treat them right, like this one. Anyhow, thank you for coming in, Brian. Have a good night. And you could get this dog as it's walking out if you want to adopt it, okay? Go down this aisle right over here. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, letting that get in. It's nice to have them here. Just a quick story for myself. I have every year mating ducks land in my swimming pool about this time of the year. Same 2 every year. They land in my pool. I don't mind it, but my 2 small Papillon dogs get so frustrated they chase the ducks around the pool. Never can catch them because they're bigger than my dogs. But it's kind of nice to see my dogs kind of interacting with the nature of 2 ducks living in my swimming pool, so it's kind of interesting. Thank you all. If you can do something down in the Humane Society with cats or dogs, certainly we would appreciate it, and you'll have a loving family member. With that, Mr. Clerk, we're past public.
Correct.
And let's go on to at least hold off on the council reports and go to the item 15, please.
Yes, item number 15 is discussion of 2014-2015 budget priorities.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, right here in the audience, this is an important issue. We had a workshop on it not long ago for the council and the public. And this is really not to be voted on. This is for information, mainly for you in the audience at home, about what we're going to be doing with the potential money we have. So we're going to have a presentation by the deputy city manager. My city manager's out sick. So Michelle Lawrence will be presenting this. If you were in the back, there's packages back there like this. They'll be shown on the big screen, but we went to a workshop to kind of highlight what some of our important issues might be for us to present to our city manager and us to vote on. So if that's not important to you, that's fine, but if you want to talk on it later to give your public input, you'll have your opportunity to. This might help you with that. Deputy City Manager, Ms. Lawrence, thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mayor, Council members, Michelle Lawrence, Deputy City Manager. As the Mayor mentioned, the City Manager couldn't be here today, but I do have some help. James Riley, our Financial Services Director, is available for questions after we go through the presentation. Before you this evening is a summary from the workshop that Council had on March 12th. Staff was asked to return to the Council and share these with you and to give both you and the public an opportunity to provide some additional input prior to the City putting its fiscal year 14-15 budget together. As the Mayor mentioned, staff is not asking for any action tonight. We have a number of slides to go through. The first 10 slides in the presentation are a summary of what the Council discussed back on March 12th. I will go through them for the benefit of the audience and the public, and the Council can follow along. The first summary is from the Police Department, and these are in priority order. We had the addition of patrol services for the downtown and expanding our homeless outreach, gang prevention officers, enhancement of neighborhood policing, and enhancement of traffic patrol. Fire Department, Council talked about needing to implement the citywide RCS radio program, also talked about apparatus replacement, overtime, and discussing how the department deploys its personnel. Economic development, there was great agreement on the need to enhance sales tax revenues, create more jobs, attract more businesses to the city, and to implement additional development streamlining efforts. Council also talked about needing to develop promotional and image strategies and the potential of restoring the Economic Development Director. In terms of infrastructure, we discussed the need to build up our reserves for building maintenance, to implement more energy efficient programs here at City Hall and other city facilities, and to focus on infrastructure improvements. So that was a tie. They were actually two separate items, but they were ranked the same. And lastly, the need to implement the sub-area plan. In terms of utilities, there was agreement about the need to continue to develop a local water supply, and also we need to determine how the Las Salinas treatment plant options will be handled. There was also agreement on the need to complete the water conservation plan and to implement CIP as well as a zero waste management plan. Again, a tie. In terms of transportation, there was quite a bit of discussion regarding deferred road maintenance, road system capacities, implementation of the Oceanside Boulevard beautification project at Coast, completion of the Mission Avenue improvements, and also Coast Highway planning. In terms of capital projects, no news in terms of the importance of the quiet zone to both the council and the community. Also the completion of the new beach restrooms and setting aside annual funds for future sand replenishment. And also the need to be able to pay for the long-term maintenance of the San Luis Rey flood control channel. Wrapping up on the capital project side, the building out or the building of Fire Station 8 and the development of economic opportunities in Libby Lake, Eastside, and Crown Heights, tied at number 5. 6, completing the beach resort and building Fire Station 1 received the same amount of votes. And then 7, completing the build out of El Core Zone, updating current aquatics facilities, building new aquatics facilities, and placing a kitchen at the senior center. In terms of community services,
There is consensus on the need to continue to put resources toward graffiti eradication. There's also talk about the need to start working on updating the general plan, implementation of proactive code enforcement, and a very important item, attempting to figure out what our strategy is for dealing with homeless issues in both the downtown and in the San Luis Rey River, alley cleanups, and restoring traffic calming programs and completing Mission Cove. In terms of administrative services, there was some talk about using as much technology as possible to increase productivity throughout all of the city's operations. There's discussion about the potential of adding some personnel back, those positions lost during the Great Recession. Making sure that we offer as many online payment services as possible for the community, and implementing a 2-year budget. Those were tied. Item 4, discussion about a wellness program, adding a public information officer, and standardizing monthly budget reports. Those tied. We also talked about creating a city app, which is actually underway, and expanding the use of Wi-Fi throughout city facilities. Now, these next two slides, and they're the final slides, outline the items that staff would like the community's and the council's feedback on, so that we can work on putting the fiscal year 14-15 budget to bed, and that will come back to you in June for adoption. You can see we did estimate a cost, just order of magnitude, so that you would be aware. So we have identified about $500,000 for fire apparatus replacement, and you've discussed that at a prior council meeting. RCS radios, you discussed that in March, and we're planning on budgeting about $450,000 this year. Sand replenishment, and you'll see next to that $100,000 there's an asterisk. What that asterisk means is that we realize that $100,000 is not going to solve our problem, but we need to start setting money aside for future use. Same applies for deferred building maintenance. We'd like to build that back up if possible. Additional patrol service for the downtown and homeless outreach. That $300,000 essentially represents 2 officers. Homeless encampment detail for the downtown and the San Luis Rey River at $75,000, and what that really represents is overtime for OPD and code enforcement to have a concerted effort to try to deal with our encampments. And then additional gang prevention services, $300,000 again, that represents two police officers. Pier maintenance, we know that we need to continue to put more money away to keep the pier safe and to maintain it. Opening of Marshall Street Pool for the summer, we'd love to do that again this year. The estimated cost for that, $60,000. Also like to reopen Chavez Resource Center, the estimated cost of $30,000. Restoring library hours to the community is also very important. If there were money set aside, the library would restore hours for Saturday and Wednesday evening out at the branch. At this point, over half of our circulation is happening out at Mission Branch versus downtown. We also know that we need to continue to set aside money for our long-term obligations for the flood control project, and that's what that placeholder is for. Of course, the city council has directed us regarding the importance of the quiet zones, and you will see that in the CIP budget when it comes forward. We also have identified some set-aside monies for the general plan update. Apparently that entire effort could have a price tag of as much as $2 million. So this is setting aside so that there's money available when we're ready to take that on. Now the employee compensation, 1% of wages, this is simply shown here just for order of magnitude to give you an idea. If the council had any desire to move in this direction, of course they would have to have discussions with the city council, but it just gives you an idea. It's 1% of total wages. And then the fire overtime gap was something that was discussed, and the gap in fiscal year 12-13, and the finance director can talk about this more if you have questions, was $800,000. And then in economic development, it's important, we think, to put more resources in that division, and that can either be for regional economic promotion efforts or staff or other sorts of programs. So with that, we're interested in hearing from you again and the public. And as the mayor mentioned, we're not taking any action on this evening.
Deputy Mayor, thank you very much. Have a seat back up here with us, number one, and we'll go to the public first. But ladies and gentlemen in the audience out here, can you think about this and how much money is spent for a city during tough times? And it's not easy to sit down there and say where you want the money or where you want to cut it, because every action needs money, and quite frankly, every particular issue that came up was deserving, but then you have to go, well, where do I want to cut at? When you speak up here and you give us input, we want to hear it. If not, we've heard it from the workshop, that's your call. But really that's what it comes down to, let the city management and the council know what you're interested in. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but it's something you're interested in. And again, the council has to make a decision where the cuts are going to be at, where the money's going to go. And we truly like to hear from the public about where that should be. I mean, most people want quality of life issues here in Southern California. On the other hand, there are certain priorities that have to be taken right away. So those come into play. And before I even get started, I tell you one of my priorities is getting some people back to run the city. We let 160 employees go over the last few years because of the economy. That's another one. I think it's certainly important to get our quiet zone downtown. I think that's a priority here because that impacts all the hotels down there when the whole train goes through at 2 in the morning and blows its whistle. But all the coastal cities want to do that. Well, what happens is you have to spend $500,000 on each intersection that crosses the railroad tracks. So those are big issues. So I want you to think about it, and we appreciate your input. If you don't have anything to say, you're always passing the buck to us, and we'll talk about it and do something with the city manager. I thank you having the financial director here. People haven't met him before. He's here tonight. Our deputy city manager, who does a lot of the work, she's here tonight because the manager is sick. See friendly faces in the audience, except in this area over here. Anyhow, let's start with that. Anyhow, Deputy Mayor Sanchez, please.
We'll start with that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't talk? Please.
Perfect. We have 4 speakers on this item. First, we have Tierney Housh.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tierney House. I work for a nonprofit here in Oceanside. I'm also with a small group of classmates. We are master's students at the School of Social Work at the University of Southern California. So I am here to encourage you as you look at your budget priorities.
I'd like to ask for a little more mic. You know, I don't hear it that well, let's say, and we can get it on the recording if we don't do it.
Okay, how's that?
Oh, outstanding. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So as you look at your budget priorities, I'm here to encourage you to look at hiring more military spouses. I know that creating more jobs, attracting businesses is reflected in the priorities and the strategic plan. And I would hope and encourage you to look at businesses who have gone on the record, made statements that hiring spouses are priorities for them. Some of those businesses are Verizon, USAA, Capital One. They've all made statements and commitments to military spouses. I don't have to tell you that Oceanside's a big military town. You've got a lot of families, a lot of history, and that's getting jobs for spouses is a really important issue with somewhere between 70 to 90% of spouses indicating that they're underemployed or unemployed, and that's a huge issue facing not just towns but the military community as a whole. So as you're looking at your priorities, please keep in mind those businesses when you're looking to recruit. Thank you.
Next, we have Karen Williams-Graham.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen Williams-Graham. I'm currently the chairman of the Arts Commission, and I would like to remind you that the members of the Art Commission, we work very hard to enhance the art for our city. And In recent years, we have been very visible with working with Eileen Turk with concerts in the park. Even though we were depleted from the budget, we still were visible in helping in every art aspect of the city. So now that we see that prosperity is back in Oceanside, my colleagues, Miss Ruth and Jonathan, will come forward and tell you the reasons why. We would like to have $25,000 back to enhance our city, because this is the melting pot of the United States, because everybody comes here, from military, from Hawaii, from Japan, everybody comes here for a little while. And we like to enhance the art with a little bit of budget. Thank you. So Jonathan and Ruth will follow me. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Next we have Jonathan. That's great. Next we have Jonathan Foreman.
Got this position just right. How's that? Okay. Greetings, everyone. I'm Jonathan Foreman. I'm currently the Vice Chair of the Oceanside Arts Commission, and I want to thank you for having me, giving me the few moments. And putting in the plug here, sorry it's only my first visit, but I couldn't resist. And I want to ask for some restored funding for the arts. I appreciate the competing priorities that the leadership of the city is facing in making these decisions. But the arts can meaningfully enhance the vibrancy of our civic life, culture, and economy. And there's a lot of excitement within the Oceanside Arts Commission about the opportunities that exist that would support the realization of Oceanside's vision as a diverse community that fosters the cultural arts, among other things. So we currently have no ongoing budget, and without funding to support arts projects and activities, our ability to help the city realize this vision will be limited. As you set the priorities for 14-15, I do want to ask on behalf of the Commission that you consider setting aside funding for arts projects. There's much research about how arts are beneficial to communities, their economies, and their individual members. Community arts projects, for instance, have often been demonstrated to boost civic engagement, civic pride, community connectedness, and social cohesion. Meanwhile, studies of the economic impact of the arts tend to examine how they attract visitors, attract residents and business, and attract investments. I think we can all appreciate how these things may happen. Significant economic activity is involved, and a recent study for the fiscal year 2010 that was published and looked at the money spent on audiences for cultural arts, arts and culture events, as well as by the arts and culture organizations themselves, found that a $665 million impact within the San Diego County alone. We're currently engaged in our biennial planning cycle, and we'll soon be forwarding you and bringing forward our proposed update to the 2-year work plan for the Arts Commission. And already in the little bit of work we've done, we've generated enough ideas to last for a few decades, and we realize we may not have funding for all of those right away, but we do want to ask you to give some consideration. There's from creating new landmarks of public art, to developing programs for at-risk youth, to celebrating the diverse cultures of our community. There are many opportunities to meaningfully enhance our quality of life, our economy, and the strength of our community through the arts. So we do ask for your consideration.
Next we have Daniel Foster.
Hey there.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, City Management, and Community. I'm Daniel Foster, Executive Director of the Oceanside Museum of Art, and also one of the leaders of the Oceanside Cultural Consortium that has pulled together our arts, business, and community leaders to vision the future of this community, period, not just the future of arts and culture. Last night at the museum was a panel that attracted 60 of the top leaders of arts and culture in North County, a panel discussion that was about the state of the arts in North County. And I came away with a few observations that reinforce the importance of your decisions that you have in front of you right now with the budgeting process. There is 1.3 million population north of the 56 in North County, San Diego, and I am tired of hearing from those art patrons, they're saying, we just discovered the Oceanside Museum of Art, this is fabulous, but we've been so tired of fighting the traffic that goes south for our art offerings. That's a population that doesn't come to Oceanside, and they are not spending their money and generating sales tax revenues, and they're not, they have certain perceptions of what this community is about and branding and identity of this community. And I think economic development strategies that are looking at downtown revitalizations in North County, the time is right now, I would say, to invest heavily in economic development strategies that understand the power of arts to attract that 1.3 million population of great affluence to spend their money and come to this community. Some community in North County over the next 5 years is going to invest, and I see several of them already doing it, to seize that potential. There is great affluence in our region that is tired, as I said, of traveling, and all they want is to see a myriad of offerings. The Oceanside Museum of Art is a great anchor institution, but it can't stand alone. We need to support all of the arts that will start to attract that audience in our cultural tourism sector to come to support this community. And I'm here to appeal to you to invest as other communities are starting to become the arts and culture hub of North County, San Diego, which Oceanside has a great opportunity to seize that terrain right now for its economic advantage. And I have to conclude in saying, at this moment of what I'm seeing in the budgeting process, in all respect to the needs of this community, I don't see that investment in that great opportunity of economic development and prosperity for this community that needs some real sincere city investment in that vision. I'd appreciate your consideration on that and continued dialogue with the arts community, how we can work in partnership towards that goal. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no further public on this item. I know that Ruth, did you say you wanted to speak on this item? Yeah. Please, okay, I just want to make sure.
Have to twist your arm.
So we do have one more speaker.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Wood and Council. It has been a long time since I've been up here for the arts. I go back to 1991 when I first started doing art in Oceanside. I'd like to share with you something that was said to me a couple of weeks ago by Kenneth Katz, who currently has an exhibition at the Oceanside Museum of Art. He said, "I've always considered the city of Oceanside to be a bold city." The light went on. This is who we are. We are a bold city waiting for new ideas. So my new anthem for the city is, "Where the bold meets beauty." This is Oceanside. Thank you.
Thank you.
No further public on this item.
Thank you. With that, I'll go back to the City Council. And Councilmember Feller, please. Were you up? I won't. Sorry, Councilmember Sanchez. I had somebody. I might have deleted you earlier. Sorry, Mr. Feller. I'm sorry. You're up next. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to summarize, and thank you, staff, for putting this together. The comments that we had at the workshop, and thank you for some of you did come to the workshop as well. Starting with police department, I believe what, in terms of the summary of our comments, had to do with, and I think Mayor, you're the one that pretty much put it out well. That is that what we need are personnel, and to give the chief the decision making in terms of where we need our officers. These are the areas that we have concern, but certainly to give the chief the authority to determine where to put those personnel. I know we're currently having challenges to getting more officers to Oceanside. Pretty much it has become more competitive in terms of getting other cities getting back to the level of police officers that they had, and so now we're all now in competition for those really good officers. So I want to just say that public safety is definitely something that is of high concern. Similarly, fire department, we had already spoken about the RCS radio replacement program. That was at a previous council meeting here. The presentation basically told us, and the information that was given to us is that we have to do this replacement. In order to be able to communicate with other cities and other agencies, we have to be we have to do this replacement. So, and we're already going through the plan for the apparatus replacement plan. In fact, at some point, the city manager said, "Okay, don't even put any dots here because we're already doing that. We're already working on this," and that includes addressing our overtime issues for fire. What we have is we do not hire as many firefighters as we have needs. Our worst day, we're not going to anticipate we're going to need, this many firefighters. We actually hire less, and then we work on an overtime system. I just read, I believe it was this morning, that fire season this year is going to be very bad. So this is something that we need. This is for our residents, for our city. We need to ensure that we have that we respond to the calls. And with respect to infrastructure, that was something that we do need to talk about in terms of ensuring that we have a sufficient fund to continue to fix our buildings and ensure that they're going to last us a long time. We do need to address our sub-area plan. This is a plan that was put together by a broad spectrum of the community, that is developers, environmentalists, businesses. This was a real group effort to put this plan together. The whole idea being that once you have it and you have it funded, then you cut down on the process for someone who wants to develop in Oceanside. It's done. Everything is, all the wildlife agencies have already signed off. If we do not finally do this, then we're going to continue to have these drags in time in getting development in Oceanside. So that's something that we keep putting off year after year. I think we're going to try to do that in 2002. So here it is 12 years later, and we still have not done it. And I think it's to the detriment of our ability to get things done in Oceanside in terms of development. In terms of utilities, that is an infrastructure, enterprise fund. We do have a ratepayers, and we did have a workshop on our water and sewer needs, and so that is something we're going to continue to talk about. So that. We might talk about a little bit more about it here, but I know we're going to continue to get information from staff. Staff was actually ready to go forward on either the city's plan for the Los Niños treatment plant, which is to turn it into a pumping station and allow for more land for park and for other opportunities, and then to have two recycling projects, one at El Corazon to address, to be able to develop El Corazon, and also at the San Luis Rey treatment plant. So we would realize economies of scale and pump our sewage from the Los Niños to the San Luis Rey treatment plant. So that is, I think, what is in the best interest of our citizens. In terms of transportation, of course, every year we put money aside from our Transnet dollars. We get $4 million a year for Transnet dollars. Those are the taxes. If you remember, that's the tax that we are now paying up to, I think it's 2045, something like that. And so about half of that, maybe a little more than half, we spend on fixing our roads. But we also have other needs, and we have gone through the Oceanside Vision Plan, the Oceanside Boulevard Vision Plan, and we do have the Coast Highway Vision Plan. So that improvements, beautification, that is something that I think our businesses have been asking for time and time again, and that is something that we definitely need to go forward on. The South O Merchants Association, they are definitely interested in a beautification program, and we are starting in South O regarding our Coast Highway implementation. There is now a committee that has been put together. Hopefully all the stakeholders are included in this committee. It's about 20 people. So I'm hoping that that is going to go forward in a very, very positive way. So, and that includes the Coast Highway planning. The railroad quieter zones, we were told at the workshop that this is actually going to cost more than what we had anticipated, that it was going to be more in the realm of $7 to $8 million. Just to refresh your memory, we did initially, when we were talking about this, trying to figure out how to make this happen financially, we talked about perhaps creating a district to see whether or not, the folks that would be the most benefited would be able to pay for this, say, over time. And the response back was no. So I'm just wondering whether or not we should again go out and see, is there a desire, a bigger desire now, especially now that we are really moving forward on our downtown vision and our development, that perhaps now we have more people who would be directly affected and benefited would perhaps want to become part of this district to make that happen. I don't see how that is something that we can completely commit to. That's a lot of money, $7-8 million. Yes, we've already voted on completing the beach restrooms. And we do have to, I agree, we do have to put money aside for sand replenishment. That is especially for protection of our infrastructure, our public infrastructure buildings and stuff. And of course, we still have our responsibilities with respect to the Sanitary Ray maintenance program, and finally getting the project handed over to the city so that we can finally address those issues having to do with flood control, flood insurance, and making that happen for our citizens. Now, for community services, I understand the desire, and of course we want to continue to address any graffiti issues that we may have. It's kind of a cyclical kind of a thing. School goes out, and then all of a sudden we have a few more issues, especially during the summer, breaks in summer. But what I would like to see here, and which I don't see, is an economic development project like the idea of investing in like a food truck, and working with Oceanside Unified and with Miracosta and creating a program, a cooking program. This would be a food truck is a great opportunity for teaching kids, first of all, how to these skills, these live skills, life skills, but also to be able to run a business, to be able to learn the fine art of cooking and becoming chefs. This is something that we talked about, or that is the Department of Justice when we were in D.C. This was an idea that was pretty exciting. Other cities are doing this. So I'd like to see some funds go into making this happen. And if this were to happen here at the Miracosta campus that we have on Mission, we could get Crown Heights as well as East Side kids involved in this economic development project, along with other kids. But definitely something that would be really exciting for kids, something new. Like any other community, the rest of the community, it's reflective of the rest of the community. The main employment for Latinos eventually are small businesses. So if we were to teach kids this really, in a way that is hands-on through classes, through a joint program with Oceanside Unified and Miracosta, I think we could really make this work. And we do have the interest. I understand that both are interested, and certainly we do have neighborhood organizations that would be able to work to make this happen. I definitely want to see Marshall Street Pool open for the summer. Last year when we were talking about this and we opened it up, and there were a lot of folks, a lot of kids that were really happy and excited about it opening again. At that time, the council had agreed to allow Oceans 11 to have the satellite horse racing, which is bringing in more money to to the city. I forget how much. I think it was something like $50,000. Something along that, 50, 60,000. And so I thought it was an excellent way of funding this program for the summer. I know when we talk about, well, this is what I'd like, we have to identify funding sources. I know the difference between last year and this year, we do have some additional funding sources. We do have now, hotel TOT, new hotels. We do have that. We have some, some other things going on, but we do need to create more jobs. And this is what Ms. Lawrence mentioned in the summary, is that how do we enhance sales tax? Well, we know that in order to get more money, to be able to spend more money, our funds are basically property taxes, sales tax, and TOT. That's a transit occupancy tax. So that's the hotels. So in order to increase that, and of course we're not talking about increasing a tax, right? What we have to do is we create the kind of jobs, we create the kind of, or bring to Oceanside, attract to Oceanside the kind of businesses that are going to increase that. So rather than having like a warehouse kind of a business, which doesn't create a whole lot of sales tax at all. In fact, doesn't at all. What we need to do is create those kind of retail shops. Those are the kind of businesses that we need to attract to Oceanside, and that's how we're going to increase our base. And of course, continue with building our hotels. The beach resort, I know it's something that we've all been waiting for several years now, but that certainly is within sight, and that certainly is going to assist us in terms of creating more excitement downtown. So I would like to see the Marshall Street Pool open for the summer, and the price tag there is $60,000. But I think we do have some increases in our funds. We don't really have those numbers before us today. I also would like to see the library hours restored and the long-term San Luis River maintenance, that $100,000. I'm not as excited about the quieter zones, only because I'm just wondering how we are going to be able to afford a $7 to $8 million. Rather, I'd like to see if we could go back to revisit the notion of creating a district so that those that benefit, would actually benefit, would be the ones paying for that. I think we do have to be competitive in terms of our employees, so I do think that we should start looking in terms of putting money aside for for raises. We have not had raises, or our employees have not had raises for, several years now. And addressing actually the overtime, the gap in funding. I mean, that should have been done, before. I know that when we talked about, or when the city manager said we got to cut every department and every department had to bear the brunt of the cuts, as equally as possible, well, there's not a whole lot that you can cut at a certain point for public safety. Either you're going to answer that call, that 911 call, or you're not. So the cuts that happened for our overtime should never have happened, because because we are answering those calls, and our staff, our firefighters, our police officers are going to the scenes, and we want them to get there. We've set a goal of 6 minutes to be there, and so having that standard is going to cost us. But I do believe that our residents want that to happen. So those are my priorities. Economic development, I'll tell you, I just came back from a conference where I had a lot of council members, and we got a chance to talk. And they're really into grabbing people, businesses to come to their cities, small and large. And I think that even especially the smaller cities, were really working their tails off to go to these conferences, like the conference that's happening in May. That is the shopping center, the international, what is it called? Michelle? ICSC. It's like, I know our staff person is going, but maybe the council members should go. Maybe we need to go and attract these businesses to Oceanside and say, hey, this is the place you want to be, and this is why. So maybe we should have the city manager go. I don't know, but certainly what I heard from council members is they're doing a lot personally, on a personal level, in making sure that this economic development happens. And so, that's something that I think that we still can do. So I'm actually very hopeful that we have, we're going forward, our city's moving forward. We have a certain quality of life that we're able to afford for our residents. There is one other thing I do want to say. I would like to see the $25,000 restored to the Arts Commission. I think it's time. I really enjoyed, I was on the Arts Commission's liaison, a couple of years or something, and I really appreciate art. When I was growing up, I had to go to San Diego. I was born and raised in Oceanside. I had to go to San Diego to see the plays. I loved Shakespeare, and I loved, all the plays that were happening. I had to go down there. It's so exciting to see what is happening in Oceanside in terms of the arts. I also would like to hear more about the consortium, because I didn't hear an actual plan or amount. I don't know if we're talking about investing $50,000 to start, to see what can be done. I didn't hear a plan. Yes, I agree with you that we as a council, as a city, need to get more involved to make that happen. Not that things are not happening, because it is very exciting to see what's going on at the Museum of Art, as well as the Sunshine Brooks Theater and the Star Theater. It's really, really exciting. So those are my comments, and I'm excited. Thank you.
Mr. Feller, please.
I don't think I can use up that many words. Graffiti, I do beg to differ. It's out there all the time, and it just is something that if we didn't have Dave Manley and his proactive crew out there, we would be way behind the curve on that. So I appreciate that as far as one of the comments. I mean, that's blight of the blight of graffiti in these alleys is probably one of the most deterring factors of people showing up here. Michelle, I had a question on under infrastructure and under utilities. You had a couple that said they were ties. Implement more energy efficient options and focus on infrastructure improvements. I'm not sure how those could have been a tie.
Councilmember Feller, Honorable Mayor, council members, they actually were a tie in terms of the weighted average when you went through the process.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I would put a heavier weight on focusing on infrastructure improvements there. And implementing CIP and implemented a zero waste plan. I mean, those, I guess I understand zero waste, but CIP is this program that has been handed out to us, the list of projects for the coming year, and I mean it's spending the money, and I think we should make that. I mean, I'm not sure how that's a tie with zero waste. Again, and I would also like to add, I had an email back and forth with Scott Smith and I can't remember who sent me the email, but the intersection at El Camino and Vista Way, that can shake your teeth loose every time you go through it, and I would like a higher priority on that. And even though it's, he explained it's coming to us in the next budget year, I just hope we can look at that pretty heavily, because I know there's a widening going on the bridge, and that is supposedly part of it, and it's a big deal, I think. You know, I don't really have a lot of comments on you have the priorities that we put up on the board already listed, so I don't really want to talk so much about that. I've heard adding city personnel back. We certainly can't add all those positions back. In the police department, I may ask for, unless one of the staffers sitting up here, how many positions are budgeted but unfilled in the police department?
Honorable Mayor, council members, we lost 31 positions. Are you talking about unfunded positions or current positions that are funded?
Current positions that are funded but vacant. Is that the 16 or 17 number?
We have 16 police officer positions that are budgeted. We have 5 in the academy as we speak. So that brings that down to 11. We just hired 3 laterals. So that will bring that number down to 8, and we're working on filling those other 8.
So those are budgeted, and then you'll be up to your normal staffing. So what we're talking about in the police department is adding to your resources for the priority was the downtown and homelessness outreach. And you talked about a program, I believe, about homeless outreach.
Yes, sir.
And there's a model somewhere, and I think that's is a very critical part of how this, especially the downtown, proceeds. So, you know, I'll be glad to support that that money for that, and that will fund 2 or 3 officers. Is that
the
300,000?
That 300,000 will fund 2 police officer positions.
Okay. And I think additional gang services is a pretty high priority too, so that's a couple more there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I have for you, sir.
Thank you.
What are you doing here still?
Answering your question.
No, I meant, yeah, I know. The fire, I thought we agreed that that was all in place for funding. I think the dollar amount is 7 or 8 million.
For the RCS radios.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's over the long term of the project. You did agree to put $450,000 into the next budget.
That's
Yes.
what I wanted to make sure. Okay. And sand replenishment, that's in addition to the 650 that we have. That's these are, what you're showing us here is ongoing.
Yes, that's in addition to the 650 set aside for the Wayland Sand project.
Okay. Well, I mean, it looks like, you know, we should probably try to fund the potential priorities. If you say additional monies are needed on 2 of them, the pier maintenance and the river maintenance. It's interesting that river would have been all of this flood insurance issue if a crazy environmentalist had made us replant the entire river with trees. We wouldn't be having one discussion about flood insurance for the thousands of people that living in the valley. So, you know, I think we're pretty close on to the vest on this budget, and I think we can rely on the city manager to come forward with some good recommendations in another month or so. I do have one question, and that is, I would suggest, I wrote this down when I was reading, but I said that do we or can we put any suggestions forward, like suggesting to city employees who are on the tip of the spear out there in the field to offer ideas and suggestions that could conserve, save work, increase productivity, etc. And, you know, I don't know if there's some form of recognition, but to take advantage of those people that are in the field and their efforts going forward with how to make their job better and better for all the people that are going to follow them in the future. So I don't know if we have a suggestion box, but or some program implemented, but I would definitely support that. As far as the Arts Commission, you know, we did spend $1 million for the museum. Daniel wasn't here when we put that $1 million out, so we have done a little bit for the arts community in the past. So I think the Arts Commission is kind of revved up, and I would probably support trying to find out. I mean, they can't spend any money that we don't approve, so they have to have balanced projects, I think, to come forward. I would probably support that. So, thank you.
Councilmember Feline, please.
Thank you. As was mentioned, we discussed this for I think about 3 hours, so certainly don't want to repeat the entire 3 hours of the workshop, but I would like to focus on a couple of principles here. One, just to point out that this is the start of our process for the city, so I would encourage anyone out there in the public who's concerned about our priorities to attend the budget items as they show up on the city council agenda for either meetings or workshops. We are interested in the input and thank the people who spoke tonight as well as at the workshop and communicated with us at other times regarding budget items. But certainly the approach that I want to take is that we make sure that we're funding all our long-term responsibilities, that we're funding our long-term maintenance, our long-term needs for roads, both in terms of expansion and maintenance, because we don't want to end up like other cities where you see sewer lines and water lines breaking every day because they tried to achieve phony budget savings by not doing the maintenance required to preserve the long-term integrity of their infrastructure projects. The other thing we need to make sure we stay focused on is preserving the long-term financial solvency of the city, that we don't make the mistake that was shown in the financial presentation about a month ago by our new finance director, where we had, basically upwardly spiraling deficit spending that had to be financed through our reserves. And, long-term fiscal solvency is what provides the foundation for economic growth. It's what preserves the property values in the city and basically lays the groundwork to expand slowly and responsibly. Also, I would like to make sure that we emphasize, as a city, having an active economic development program that will be attracting jobs and businesses to the city that are going to be an improvement for the citizens of Oceanside. The other item that this council and other councils have agreed on in the past is continuing forward with our plan to develop our own long-term stable supplies of water so that we, over time become more and more independent from the metropolitan water district. I think having secure supplies of water in the long run will give our city a competitive edge against other cities and other regions when we're competing for jobs and businesses to come to Oceanside. So those are just a couple points that I want to see emphasized in this process as it moves forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Kern, please.
Thank you. I'm not going to be very long. I just want to make a couple of statements. I did attend the State of Art in North County last night and heard quite a bit. And I would advocate the $25,000, but before I do, I want to see some type of a work plan that comes out of the Arts Commission. I'm not going to write a check for $25,000 without a plan behind it. So I'd like to see that before I commit to spending more money. The other thing is, and I've talked to the chief previous to this and the Main Street people about having those hot teams downtown. I think homelessness is a chronic problem. I think just, the catch and release programs that we have now with homelessness that commit crimes, I think we really do need to start reaching out to these, because a lot of them are veterans, a lot of them have other issues, and get them into some type of a treatment facility or some other social services that help get them off the streets. So I think, as we start talking about that issue and chronic issue, I think that, I don't know if that's wrapped up in here or not, but as we become more of a tourist town, we talk about art, people attracting people for art, attracting our hotels. I think we have to get on top of that problem, because we're spending a heck of a lot of time and money and effort to get them here. We want them to come back, because it's always easier to keep a customer than try to go out and get a new one. So I think that's part of that strategy that we have downtown, is to make that more attractive, not just physically, not visually, but physically more attractive, so that people that aren't bothered by some of the people that are on the street, but those people have needs, and we're going to have to figure out how we meet those needs to get them into some type of a treatment. So that's the only two things. The other ones, like Councilmember Feline said, we beat this to death for 3 hours a couple weeks ago, so there's no need to go for another 3-hour session tonight. But the art thing was the only thing that was left off of that workshop, and I apologize for that. It just never came up, but I think we're going to be working towards that. So thank you.
Thank you. Before I go back to some of the other councilmen, I thought I'd jump in here. At this particular moment, we've gone over this, and I certainly think everybody here has gone over it with the city manager, the deputy city manager in the past. So like I say, it's not easy to look at where you're going to cut or take the money to. Everybody calls us and asks us to give them their share of the pot, and I know it's interesting because they're all good. On the first page of this, the summary on the police department, I think we should be at least up to full staffing, not behind. And I have these categories that you want them in, downtown, the district gangs, or whatever. My attitude on that is to have the police department staffed at least to what it's supposed to be, and maybe even above that, and let the chief of police decide, along with the city manager, where they should be. That's your job, chief, to say, I need people in this area or whatever. That's your job. It shouldn't be me telling you where to put them out there. You know where the crime is and the things we need. So that's financing for police. Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, every election, police and fire will be somewhere in the top 3, always by people and citizens, and I understand it. And that's why they're obviously the most expensive, because it does take a lot of manpower to get those things done in a city our size. When I do say manpower, I mean man and woman power. How's that? Fire department, another group that I can't have anything except pride and praise for. We were told that most of the things on the list were going to be approached by the fire department and the city manager. My points on that, we got some good feedback. Besides the emergency radio aspects and replacing it, just like your phone, about every 6 months a new one comes out, replacing the one 6 months ago. Same thing with emergency transportation and the radio communications. They're always improving every day. We have to keep up with that. Our police department is very busy. And then you look over at our fire department, they respond to 18,000 calls a year in Oceanside. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot, and I'm glad and I'm happy what they do. Some of the issues on here were things like fixed overtime. Well, that's kind of funny. It kind of blames us up here. As you cut back like $5 million to the fire department, and you wonder why they're getting a lot of overtime. You cut all their money and time and people, so you have to give them overtime. And all cities find out that overtime is a lot cheaper than hiring a new person. As Deputy Mayor indicated, you may not need them every day, but you can always hire them back when you need them for overtime. So that's how you save money. So I think it's important that we have all these things, including the apparatus, the fire trucks. I know my chief's been dealing with all the North County agencies regarding, let's work together, let's do things. We drop boundaries with surrounding cities. Our chief brought that up. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen at home, when you want an emergency call or fire at your house or whatever location you live, and all the surrounding cities said the closest apparatus, the closest fire department, truck or vehicle will respond from Carlsbad, Vista, or Oceanside. That means saving lives, because we'll go either way. Both cities will let you go either way. I think that's important. The only new one I have down here that I like from our fire chief, excess squad deployment. In other words, do we get little vehicles that carry water that aren't so big as our big pumper rigs? And kind of a response quicker team. I like that concept for one reason. Not only is it quicker, we're not tearing up our big rigs, but the other one is we're starting to go high-rise all over here. You're seeing high-rise. Our big trucks can't go into the basements. So you want a truck that can go into the basements and fight maybe a small fire before it comes a big fire. So I think all these things on here are important and we should look at them. Police and fire are our priorities here. It's life-saving equipment, and I can't think of a better police and fire department than we have. So maybe that's just me talking, but thank you all for that. Economic development, next page. All the North County mayors and other groups are working on economic development for the North County. We see everything's moving from South San Diego County to north, and everything's built out down there. So we got a lot of mayors get together, city managers, our economic development staff, and we're pooling them all together, all these cities, and we're working on doing something for the North County as a whole, making it a better place where to come, build your buildings, live here, or all the other things. So we're all working on that throughout the city. Creating more jobs means making more business. So we want to do that. Attracting cities, like I say, to Oceanside. We're seeing that at county level, North County, and our city. Streamlining issues. I've had complaints about this when somebody wants to build something in our city. It need to be a small project or a large one. that they feel like they needed a little smoother path to work on. We have a community development director now that's in charge of all those things. They got one person who can answer those questions and tell them what's going on. I think that's a benefit. We stole him from Orange County, so we're happy. But remember, another thing in economic development, nobody has been building for the last 3 or 4 years for an obvious reason, the economy. Now we'll see that staff had been cut quite a bit, but now it's starting to move again, so we have to address how we man that and get things done quicker in Oceanside. I also think that a restoring the economic development director, whoever that might, in-house, out-house, I think it's important. Somebody goes out there besides the city staff and the whole North County and looks to people and say, we want you in our city, and I'll help you walk through that process as the boss. And I think that helps a lot of these people that want to deal things and build in the city of Oceanside. Infrastructure, one of the biggest, no doubt about it, on the list is restoring building maintenance. These buildings and all the city buildings are getting older. If you don't keep up with them, the next thing you know, you have a big problem. You have to keep up with it. There's no doubt about it. The other one is energy efficient. I think all the cities around here are looking and saying, solar or wind or whatever it might be, it seems to be Southern California, and we're going to try our best to have energy saving. Utilities. Ladies and gentlemen, the most valuable commodity in Southern California is water. We're one of the very rare cities that about 20% of our water is taken from the downstream of the Colorado River. And we desal it. Everybody thinks desal is done in the ocean. We do it coming downstream. Do 20% of our water. We'd like to pump it up to 50%. We're a little concerned that they have a dump potentially going to be built upstream, and if it leaks, the dump up the Gregory Canyon, all those millions and millions of dollars we have in infrastructure to do water could be destroyed in 1 week. So we're concerned about that. So we'll go more forward and try to do more water and get away from the metropolitan water district. Nobody complains about it more than our council, that over the last few years your water rates and sewer rates have gone up over 100%. That's from the metropolitan Los Angeles water district. To transfer and push that water to a pipe down here, we get charged for that. Double digits almost every year for you, not us, from them. So that's important to have our own water to get away from and be better. The other one is Los Salinas treatment plant down here off of Buccaneer Beach. We've had some studies on that. Our staff presented them at the workshop. Important. The difference between a private enterprise and Oceanside City doing it is about $20 million. We can do it better, quicker, and we keep it. Plus, that big plant down there shrinks down to a lot smaller area, leaving about 9 acres we can use for other things in the city. Need to be parks, investments, things for you to help us get quality of life in Oceanside. So I think that's a thing that we should do. Water conservation, I think we've done a good year in the past. We learned from the last one, and what we have in supplies and what we've done is an outstanding job. So I think that's important. Zero waste, very important. We have the ability in Oceanside, with all those new cans out, colors in front of your house, get down to close to zero waste, and that means saving the city of Oceanside, you and taxpayers, a lot of money. So I'm certainly supportive of it. Transportation, I had one concern for the last couple of years. More than one, but I had one really concern. It's called, you drive through our town, there's a lot of potholes. And that's because the economy went down and potholes weren't a priority. But after a year or two, now they've become a priority. So I think taking care of that deferred maintenance on the streets got to be on the top of the list. And other things like road maintenance and et cetera. All these big intersections with traffic lights on them. We have a system here at City Hall that monitors those with cameras all the time. If some problem happens, they can adjust the lights, change it, move the traffic in any direction. So we are actually monitoring it, and most people don't know that. We do that and control those intersections from the building right here. So we've done that, but it can be improved about traffic. Oceanside Boulevard maintenance and improvement beautification, they started on already. I like to see when those trees are finally big and not little ones. So that's important. That's our namesake. Mission Avenue improvements, including Coast Highway Plan. I think those are under process and working. So we're happy about those. Capital improvement projects. This is one of them I think is a priority. Not everybody agrees it's a quiet zone. Everybody on the coast wants quiet trains. It's run by the federal government. The engineers have the right to blow the horn anytime they want, and we can't say anything about it. The problem is, when they come through town late at night or early in the morning when you're sleeping downtown, if you live there, you get used to it. You don't even hear the train anymore. But if you're living in one of these hotels that we just built down here, multi-million-dollar hotels, and the train comes through at 3 in the morning, you may not come back the second time. I think that's a real priority because it's downtown, it's tourism, etc. The difference is, can we fix it all at once? I doubt it, too expensive. But we can take one intersection in Oceanside, right there at Mission Avenue and the railroad tracks right next to the new hotel, and do that one first. If we can get that done through Sandag, North County Transit District, get it approved, that's the one intersection that we probably would have the biggest problem with pedestrian traffic walking back and forth through it, and the train. In other words, I'm hoping we don't have to do all of them at once, start with one and scatter out down the road and do the rest of them. Beach bathrooms, agree, they need to be upgraded, and we're already moving on that. Sand replacement, I have a different story than Councilman Feller. My opinion is, I'll ask the Deputy City Manager, when are we going to start the dredging of the harbor? April?
Honorable Mayor, Council members, April 15th is the plan.
They dredge all the sand out of the harbor. We don't pay for it, government does, and punch it all on the beaches in Oceanside. They do it free. That's nice. They have to. It's a joint harbor, military-civilian harbor, and they basically admitted at Congress they caused our sand problem. So they're going to pump it. Last year we didn't pump the sand on the beach because we were told we can't because the grunion, the fish, little grunion. So that's an issue. But this year they're going to pump it on. We have probably this $100,000 plus $700,000 in reserves that can be used somewhere else. I'd rather use it for that since we're getting the sand. It's not going to go all the way down South Oceanside, kind of down to Wisconsin, but at least we'll have sand for at least until the next big storm, and then we'll lose it all again. That's why I think we want reserves, honestly, but we're working on that. And the San Luis Rey maintenance, the flood control channel, it's a forest. It's never meant to be a forest, but we can't do much about it. It belongs to the Army Corps of Engineers, not Oceanside. Everybody that lives near it wants their insurance rate for flood insurance to go down. It has if you go through the proper channels, but on the other hand, we cannot mow it or even take anything out of it without approval from many, if not different, environmental groups. I don't mind that, but I don't want to do is have the Army Corps give it back to us. They promised a 200-year flood control plan, and they haven't even got it to 100 years. I don't want to take it back from them and find out that we can't mow it or take care of it because there's constant complaints from outside groups. So they still have it, and they need to do something about it. It's important to all of you, not only your insurance, for your house and flood insurance if you live near it, but if I ever had a big flood in Southern California, Oceanside, it took all that down the river. Every one of those trees that gets uprooted will probably take our bridges out along the way, so we can't go to the north side of Oceanside. All that debris will go straight to the ocean and probably in our harbor. That's my concern. We've gone back the last 15 years to the Army Corps of Engineers and Congress and Senate trying to get that taken care of. It always has been a money issue. It's not ours, it's the Army Corps of Engineers river. But it's always brought up to us until they give it to us, and with the guidelines they promised, we're not taking it back. The other things, we have capital improvements. I certainly want to see a fire station 8 built and not be temporary. The developer out there gave us the land free as part of a deal with the fire department. The new, is it FedEx or who else is moving out there? FedEx, they got their big building going in. Fire department's going to move from that lot to give it to them and go down to the corner. Great location, so we have that going for us. Land that's going to be given to us for the fire station. Believe me, that's a lot of the cost, and I know you want those out there if you live out there to have a fire station. Complete the beach resorts. We get that all the time. One more hotel supposed to be downtown, the Pier Project. Right next to the Wyndham, just south of it, supposed to take up 2 blocks. That stopped, not by us, but the state of California came along and said, no more redevelopment, period. That's a redevelopment area we've been dealing with for years to put a massive hotel down there with a big conference room. That came to a halt because the state said no more redevelopment. So that company's planning on building a hotel, not like it was going to be in the beginning, but we have another hotel going down there, which is really going to start the process. All of you live in town, all those open vacant lots down there they call parking lots, we don't own them. They belong to the Southern Ute Indians in Colorado. They're billionaires. They built a new hotel down there and they own all the rest of the property, so they're filthy rich. They tell us they're going to build down there all those projects. I'm happy they're here. They're casino Indians, oil Indian, and natural gas Indians. They're very rich. There's only 1,400 of them, and they're building here in Oceanside. So I wanted to update you on that. Hopefully that will be improvements down there. That's that engine that moves the city downtown. So we got a lot of things going in the future. We just have to decide how we spend some of this money until we get those TOT taxes from all the hotels that are coming in. Graffiti, certainly a priority for me. It really makes us look like a second-rate city when we have it all over town. We do have people go out there and clean it up. But that means two things. Not only the police department, fire department priorities, but we got to say code enforcement. Code enforcement goes out and does all those things for all those little petty crimes that we always complain about in every neighborhood in downtown. So we have to staff those people to get people to go out and do that. I think that's a priority without a doubt. Looking here, some of the homeless issues, we've tried for years and years and years, like every other city, and there doesn't seem to be a solution to homeless. A lot of those people come to this city because they're former military and they'll live out in the bushes or out in the fields or out in the rivers because some of them are mentally incapable of really getting their act together. Some of them are drug addicts. But I don't want to paint a terrible picture with one brush. The ones you always see are maybe a half a dozen of the crazy ones, and you say everybody's that way. It's not. We have a lot of people in Oceanside that are homeless that are families. You know, it's hard not to have a heart to say, let's try to help them. So we see from the police department on down, they were trying to look for a solution to take care of these things. Administration, I go over here, and it's a classic example of technology can really fix us and help us in what's going on for our staffing and what we do. Adding city personnel back. I spoke at the last workshop and said I thought it was a priority. We're a big city, and you know what? You, the citizens out there, expect us, the council, to provide you services. That's what you pay taxes for. Well, one of the big issues is people supply those services, and when you get rid of those people, 160 of them, you don't get the same services. But we save money. We're kind of changing upward. We got good things going, hopefully. I would like to see us not hire everybody back, but the people we need to provide those services, and I think that's a priority for you and me. You want them from us, services. And that means looking at something that's a big city. I certainly would like to have an economic development director again. I certainly would like to have a public information officer. We're not a small city. We're the biggest in North County, and we don't have a public information officer to spread things to the press or whatever, good or negative issues for police, fire, or whatever. I think that should be under the control of the city manager. Those are things I'd like, because she's taking these notes about what we all like. And implementing the wellness program, that's important because we get a lot of IODs, injured on duty. That costs a lot of money to the city and the taxpayer, so I would like to see a wellness program here. Looking at all these numbers you saw earlier for what they cost, I'm highlighting to this young lady and our deputy city manager what I like. Should go tell the city manager who's going to sit down with all the department heads and say, well, they all said this, where can we do and how do we spend the money? And I believe that the priorities and all those are going to be one thing. Public safety, your life out there, police and fire are still going to always be number one. Number two, after that, I think what I see here in a beach community, even a military beach community, is quality of life. People move to California and Oceanside for a reason. They want to be in a beach city. They like the weather. They want clean beaches. They want clean water. They want hotels that are nice, that pay taxes. In your own neighborhood, you want nice places, nice streets, nice road, water, sewer, all the things you expect. But some of the other questions were culture. Hey, it's nice to have an art community. It's so like to have the performing arts. We have those. It could be nicer and better. But like I say, when I get people moved to the town to come and see the mayor and talk to me, the husbands always seem to talk about where am I going to build my company, my business, and what's going to cost me and who's going to help me. When I get the wives in the room, it's a different story. how are your schools? How is your performing arts? How is this? And all of a sudden we get into the conversion. They don't want to live in a town that doesn't have all those features, performing arts, art museums, etc., and along with beautiful beaches and weather. We have all those. So hopefully we'll look at those and consider what's the best for the city of Oceanside. But I find out from most of the calls I get, you want me to look at quality of life issues that makes it better for you living here in this community, things that you want, and somebody up here that will listen to you when you tell them what you want. So with that in mind, I got some more lights on, but I want to say this too. Got a lot of calls, a lot of emails on what you think you would like to have in my city and this area around here. I understand it, and we listen. This is a tourism military town, let's face it, folks. We're doing pretty good, and the neighbors north of us are our heroes. And part of that, our heroes, that they've given a lot, and some of these people in the audience tonight wants us to hire those type of people or their family members. And I think we ought to do that, and we look at it that way. Everybody's been told if there's an opening, look at the best and give them some advantage points for military or people or their families. And I wanted to say that to you because you were here in the audience, but I think we're pretty good about looking at our neighbors here in the north and their families. We've always done that. We have Operation Appreciation. We do that as a city to some of these people and their families. So between the public safety people here in the audience today, fire chief, chief of police, they're always going to be my priority and yours, and hopefully when this budget is worked out, you'll all be happy where it went. And if you're not, feel free to call the other council members and tell them you're not. Anyhow, that's all I have, but I have some other speakers here. And Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you. With all that, I did leave a few things. Zero waste. You mentioned zero waste. Our zero waste program, well, first of all, through our waste hauler program, we get back $1.7 million a year. We get $1.7 million back. Now, on top of that, we're getting an extra $300,000, and that's because we're in a profit. We also included in our waste hauler contract that we would share in the profits in terms of our recyclables. And so we're getting this extra $300,000. We could get more. We're now getting $2 million rather than just 1.7. I'd like to see us, and we're at like 60, close to 65% of recycling. So our goal is 75% by 2020, and we're definitely going to reach there. In fact, what we should be doing is increasing it to 90% recycled, the zero waste to 90% goal. That will have to include a food waste program, a food recycling program. And so it's good. We should put some money back into the program. It's actually making the money, so it would be paying for itself, this kind of a program. So I'd like to see that happen. I know that the grocery stores are very interested in that. I know some of our restaurants are. The school district is really getting into it. So there's already an interest in moving to the next step in terms of zero waste. So this is something, we are, the City of Oceanside, we're taking the lead on this, and so I'd like to see us get to that next step. Number two, storefront improvement program. We had that once upon a time, and some of the businesses told me, we need this program back. So I'd like to see us put some money aside for that as well. Three, the kitchen at El Corazon. I've been told over and over again that if we had a kitchen at El Corazon, we could get more events happening there. We could be making more money for the city for our programs. So if we finished it, say if we have a 2-year plan that we finish this kitchen and we get this get it finally completed, the senior center at El Corazon, we can then be bringing money back into the program. That's number 3. Number 4, traffic calming. That needs to come back, restarted. That's the biggest, I think, the biggest complaint that we have is that, unfortunately, but it is a public safety issue because we're talking about kids that are playing in the street or nearby, and cars just zooming, and we really need to do that. And the last thing, Mayor, you mentioned the wellness program. we were told by staff, and actually we got the numbers, we spent $1 million on workers' comp claims, $1 million in 1 year. The way we're going to get that reduced down is to have a wellness program. So I would like to. So these are things that are going to get money back into our coffers, money back into the programs that are near and dear to our heart. So these are the extra things that I thought about as well, or not extra, but actually things that I forgot to mention. Thank you.
Councilman Feller, please.
Thank you. The kitchen is listed as one-time money, I think. So I think that was something that we had as a possibility. So I'd be supportive of that. I'm not supportive of traffic calming. And the only thing we realize out of that $2 million that you spoke of is the $300,000, because the $1.7 million is nothing more than part of the residence fee. We could reduce residence fee by $1.7 million throughout the city, and then we wouldn't be receiving that money, and the money would still be in their pocket. So it's not out of the profits; it's out of the citizens' pockets.
Well, before I move on, Ms. City Manager, any questions or any issues that we haven't covered that you'd like to know about, or opinions from us? I know that you don't want to touch that, but at least ask.
Oh, and the lights.
That's yours. Who's yours?
There we go.
There you go.
I think I'd figure it out by now. Plenty of input. We appreciate it. We'll certainly take a look at all of it when we set to work on putting the budget together. So no, I don't have any particular questions at this time. Thank you.
Well, I thank you very much. Thank everybody up here, the city treasurer and clerk and all the staff. Thank you very much. With that, Mr. Clerk, what I haven't done besides close city reports?
Yes, that's all we have left. So we can start with your report, Mayor Wood.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Closing here, I would like to say we had a wonderful time interacting with our sister city representatives from Fuji, Japan. They were wonderful. They treated us fantastic in Japan. They were here. We made sure they had a great time here in Oceanside, showed them around. Also, I went to the graduation ceremony for the Oceanside Fire Department last Friday. Chief, you seem to get all the best ones, and I'm happy for you and happy for the city. Great turnout, great people, and I think you got some good ones. And we have a city council workshop on April the 8th at 2 p.m. at this location, I believe. And I promised somebody else I'd read something. Had to go. Flyer, drop off unused prescription drugs, Saturday, April 26th this year, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Oceanside Tri-City Medical Center, 4002 Vista Way. And the reason they want this, they're finding out more and more drug use from kids. It's their own cabinet in their own bathroom. Adults, if you have old drugs or drugs you don't need anymore, you can't flush them, you can't throw them out anymore, you have to go to a special location. Generally speaking, it's 1 or 2 times a year you have this opportunity to drop off all these drugs there. They don't want needles, they just want medication type stuff. And it's put on by San Diego Alliance for Drug-Free Youth and the North County Prevention Coalition. I'd appreciate that. Chief, I'm not sure, but in the past, if people really wanted to get rid of drugs, they've done them to fire departments and dropped them off. Is that still the case? I don't know. Strictly this type thing? Okay. Thank you very much. Chief. Pardon? The police department lobby also takes all those drugs, and I thank you all for that. It is important. Teens seem to use these drugs out of their parents. And with that, that's all I have, and I'll say thank you. Have a safe. Go ahead.
Deputy Mayor Sanchez.
Hi. Sorry.
Go ahead.
That's funny. I have got a post on my Facebook that I wanted to share with everyone. This is from my classmate from OHS, class of 1974, Lorna De La Cruz, who is she's a Chief Master Sergeant at U.S. Air Force in Rhode Island, and she shared with me this. March 2014, the first month in over a decade to have 0 U.S. combat deaths. That's a good month's work. It doesn't, of course, it doesn't include injuries, but it is a wonderful, wonderful fact for us all in this country. So she's been serving since she got out of college, and Lorna's going to be able to come to visit Oceanside again. She still has family here for our 40th high school reunion in August. So that's really exciting. Anyway, I did attend a conference on water Thursday and Friday. That's why I could make some of these events. Up in Sacramento, we actually had a tour of the Bay Delta on a Thursday. It was pretty eye-opening. The Delta is made up of about, 75 islands, and it's going through subsidence. I learned a new word then, subsidence. At one point it was, pretty much level sea rise. It's now some parts of the Bay Delta are 30 feet below sea level. It's pretty amazing. And that's all that pumping that's going out. So basically about 50% of the water has been pumped all this time. 50% goes into the ocean. But we had a really good presentation during our lunch there. There were 3 different perspectives on on the Bay Delta. There are 2 things going on right now as we speak. One is a proposal to underground some pipes and try to capture the water up higher, coming from the mountains, right? And so that would address a couple of things having to do with with the salinity and all that, to avoid all those things, and also it would really stabilize the supply of water. It would not increase it. That's the thing, but it would certainly stabilize it. And the 3 perspectives, basically, there was someone there from the Bay Delta who, you can imagine they're opposed to it. Also someone from the Nature Conservancy, and then someone from the Metropolitan Water District. 3 different perspectives. And I have to say, it gave me some hope that they would have some kind of compromise on the project. This is not something that's going to be coming to, say a vote. It's not a bond, but it is that the water districts are involved, including the Met. So they're going to be deciding, this issue. In fact, I got to meet some folks from the Met and got to talk to them. There's also the other issue, and we had, I want to say we had about 20 speakers for Friday, having to do with the water issues for the entire state, including the bond. And the bond there are actually 7 versions of a bond, or 7 different proposals. The one that is being supported is already being supported by the League of California Cities is AB, I think it's 1339, which is Rendon's Assembly Member Anthony Rendon's bill. And that is trying to capture a lot of, trying to reach out to more. I think that what happened was they left out storage, money for storage, and that certainly is a huge issue for all of us here. I'm going to see if I can get someone to talk more about, the bonds, the 7 versions of the bonds, and probably the one that's going to be coming out is the AB 1339. But I have to say it was a wonderful experience. Got to meet a lot of council members from throughout the state. Certainly different perspectives, not just from the Met and from the Delta and from the Nature Conservancy, but from farmers, from city, from the valley, from an economic perspective. It's just it was a really good program. So, thank you.
Councilmember Feline.
Thank you. I got to attend on the Denny's ribbon cutting where they had completed their remodeling, and it's great to see businesses spending money and investing in their locations here in Oceanside. As the mayor mentioned, it was wonderful to participate in the chamber mixer on the 20th at the fire department training facility and see the new reach helicopter that's serving our city, as well as the new training class for the fire department. Their enthusiasm was noteworthy, and they were even polite to politicians, so that was great. And all Thursday the 20th, had an opportunity to go to an event for the Vista Chamber where they have their Meet Their Regional and Local Leaders event, and thank Congressman Issa for the great job he's doing for us in Washington. On Saturday, March 22nd, went to the North County Transit District Board Retreat and got to spend the whole day riding around on the system, seeing what the public sees as well as what the public doesn't get to see, all the repair facilities and maintenance facilities that they have, and it's pretty amazing to see what it takes to take care of a train. And then on Wednesday the 26th, went once again to the annual Crystal Apple Teacher Recognition Awards, where students from the Church of Latter-day Saints nominate teachers who they believe have made a positive impact on their life. And it's great to see students recognize teachers they believe that have a positive impact on their life, and that's a wonderful event. On Thursday the 27th, I got to attend with our sister city delegation that's been here for about a week from Fuji, Japan. We visited Nido Dinko and Hydronautics, and it was very interesting there to find out certain business issues that these two companies are facing, and the difficulty of even companies that represent the high-tech jobs and supposed green jobs that we want to attract to the state, and the environmental extremism they face trying to do anything in the state of California. Hydronautics, for example, specializes in the membranes for reverse osmosis, in other words, the desalinization plants. And they tell us they build plants all over the world, and yet they can build plants 10 times the size in 1/10 of the time anywhere else except California. They have plants in Australia, plants in Israel, basically, you know, extremely well-run countries, just as concerned about their environment, and yet they seem to get things done. Nido Dinko had to face the environmental extremism of the Water Quality Board, where they had some bizarre interpretation of a water quality rule that would have banned any development in the Mission Valley there, or San Luis Rey Valley. And years later, they finally admitted that their interpretation was wrong, but it was too late for that project. So this is the struggle businesses face all the time. Our city's committed to trying to help these projects move forward, and we're going to go to bat for them as best we can, fighting the state bureaucracy. But just the public needs to know that you know, there's a reason Rick Perry has tremendous success every time he visits the state to attract businesses to come back to Texas. So this is what goes on every day, hurting job creation in our state, and it hurts our efforts in this city to attract jobs here, the kind of jobs that supposedly everyone says they want. And that concludes my report.
Councilmember Feller.
Thank you. I had opportunity to wish Mickey Todd, her 98th, happy birthday. She's just a wonderful lady that just sits at home and hangs on my every word. So somebody besides my grandkids. So happy birthday, Mickey. That was on the 26th. I attended the Crystal Apple Awards as well, and I've done that for probably 12 years. Just a great recognition of teachers. I did attend the REACH open house, and it is going to be a nice facility for them there, and I think we've got a real good partner there. They were very happy to explain everything to me that I needed answered. So I appreciate that. I'm sorry I missed the fire ceremony. I got a late call and had to head north. So I appreciate getting those guys up and running. It's kind of a boot camp you run down there, and almost pretty scary. I went to the Mission Branch Library reopening yesterday morning, and boy, that's a new, great-looking facility. I was taking heat for the last couple of months from daughters that take their kids down there all the time, and it's great. It's going to be a great tool for all of our residents. The Women's Resource Center's having a fundraiser. You can at Outback Steakhouse, so you can call my office and get tickets. And tomorrow is Jonathan Franklin's 7th birthday. So that's a grandson that was born 2 days before my first foot surgery. So I can always remember how old that is. So 7 years, great young man, and happy birthday, Jonathan. Thank you.
Councilmember Kern.
Thank you. One thing I wanted to tag on that the mayor said about the unused prescription drugs: do not put them down the toilet. You know, those constituents get into our wastewater stream and we cannot get them out.
I said don't.
Yeah, so the idea that if we're going to start talking about recycling water and trying to recover water, the idea of not putting pharmaceuticals down into the waste stream is very difficult to eliminate. On Saturday, I had the pleasure of presenting certificates to Travis Ashton for Eagle Scout. Councilmember Feller and I were both there. So it was a great kid, great event. It was so my congratulations to them. I did attend to the Ironman. I got there a little bit late. The city manager was already done because he was sitting there eating lunch at the time. But obviously it was too much for him because he'd been gone out for 3 days sick now. So I didn't see Councilmember Feller, so I assumed he was still out on the track. Oh. And then, like I said, the State of the Art of North County attended last night. Very eye-opening of what we can do with art and what everybody else is doing with art in North County. The Crystal Apple Award, I think I think all of us attended pretty much. And then, I'd also like to pass on our congratulations to Dr. Dwayne Coleman, who is the new superintendent of Oceanside Unified. So I think everybody here knows Dr. Coleman, Dwayne. And so I think they've made a fairly good choice there, and hopefully keep moving the district forward. Again, the reopening of Mission Branch Library, it's really kind of a nice change. It's much brighter. Seems like it's much bigger than it was before. So they've done a really good job. And I think we did a lot of that internally. Tony and his crew were down there that redid the carpeting and redid the shelving. So that was good. And then last week I did attend my first meeting of the community engagement panel for the decommissioning of San Onofre. Pretty enlightening. We had 40 some odd speakers talking about what we're going to do with San Onofre. The one thing I did insist on with the chairman is that we're going to have at least one meeting a year in San Diego. I think our meeting here is going to be in Oceanside in August for those people who want to address the panel about the decommissioning of San Onofre. It's a long-range problem. We have 60 years to solve it. I don't think I'll be there at the end to see it solved, but I think we're going to put it on a very good path. So with that, I think that is it. Thank you.
Other than the fact that I already said this, Mayor Council Workshop, 2 p.m. on Tuesday, April the 8th, this location. Good night. Thank you for being here. Be safe.